the saints. Welcome back again to the public hearings of the TRRC. Imam, you have the floor if you can offer some prayers, and perhaps you may add a few special prayers because of the period of Ramadan that we are in the last 10 days involving the Laylatul Qadr. Imam, you have the floor if you can offer prayers then, please.
Thank you, Chair. Ci kaddu Chair man bi wone na ne dafa bëgg ñu def ñaan jublu ci suñ fukki fan yi mujjé ci wéri koor bi ñun ñëpp xam nañ li nekk ci fukki fan yi mujjé ngeenel bi ci nekk jégal bi ci nekk yàlla nangul ñu lañu or ak lépp lu baax loo xam ne def nañ ko ci suñ aada yi la ne fukki fan yi mujjee ñu yaakaar ne yàlla dinañu jégal suñ bakkaar yépp te nangu na lépp luñ ko jàmm ci jamono ñu jéem a delluwaat ci moom di ñaanal réew bi di ñaanal suñ njaboot gi am mboolem mbokki jullit ci àddina bi fii ak ci suñ dëkk bi fii nii rawatina nag suñ dëkk bi dañ soxla ñaan yàlla génne ñu ci wax yu bari yi le yàlla defal ñu jàmm ñu am yoon boo xam ne dañ ko dox boo xam ne yooni jàmm la te yàlla defal ñu jàmm rek lañ bugga yàlla ñu yàlla defal jàmm balaa ñu def ñaan bi kon ku nekk rek ci sa xel na nga xalaat sa réew xalaat mbokk yi ak njaboot gi ñu ñaanal leen yàlla musal leen te muccal leen ci feebar yu bari la nekk ci kaw àdduna si ba pare nag ñu gën a ñaan nag pour yàlla nangul ñu lépp loo xam ne jaamu nañ ko yàlla defal ñu jàmm ci beneen at yi ñëw te yàlla bàyyi ñu fi ba mu yàgga defal ñu jàmm kon ma dugg ci ñaan bi bismillahi rahmani rahim alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin rahmani rahim maliki yawmiddin iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in ihdinas siratal mustaqim siratal ladzina an'amta alayhim ghayril maghdubi alayhim waladdallin amin فلله الحمد رب السماوات ورب الأرض رب العالمين وله الكبرياء في السماوات والأرض وهو عزيز الحكيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إنا أنزلناه في ليلة القدر وما أدراك ما ليلة القدر ليلة القدر خير من 1000 شهر تنزل الملائكة والروح فيها بإذن ربهم من كل أمر سلام هي تام الليل الفجر بحرمة اللهم فصل وسلم وبارك على هذا النبي الكريم سيد سند العظيم ذو القلب الرحيم سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين آمين.
Amen. Shukran, Imam Jallo, and thank you very much again for those special prayers during this last 10 days of Ramadan. Bishop, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chairman. Lord God Jehovah, the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. You have created all humankind in your image and in your likeness, and have planted each and every person in the different nations of the world. We continue to thank you for our preservation. Thank you for our protection, and thank you for your providence over each and every person living in the world. And so we continue to submit the witnesses that will come before the TRRC today. And we pray, Lord, that you shall grant them the boldness to be able to speak the truth, and grant the commission the discerning spirit to discern between truth and falsehood. And we continue to ask that you give the population of this nation, the diaspora, and the international community as well the extraordinary patience to allow the due process of the proceedings and the commission's work to take its rightful place This we ask through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much indeed, Bishop Odeko. We had announced at the end of the 23rd session, the last session, and repeated the same announcement at the beginning of this 23rd session, that we would be concluding our public hearings at the end of April. We have since reviewed the work plan again, and as you saw yesterday, in the middle of a theme that we were considering, there's a focus on the justice sector institutions. We came up with a regional hearings item. That is likely to happen during the next 3 weeks or so until the end of May. After reviewing our program, we revised the calendar, and we are going to continue with these public hearings and the insertion of residuals as we go on until the end of May. And the report writing has commenced, and it would continue, and also during the month of June, with the view to ending the work of the Commission in June, at the end of June, as we have been, our mandate has been extended to the 30th of June. The details of some of the views that we expressed yesterday concerning the extent, the work program, Lead Counsel, if you can just explain that to the public, would appreciate it. If you give the details.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning to you all. We still have some bit of work to do in order to complete the mandated tasks. This list of outstanding activities really is based on an assessment of the evidence or the information that has already been collected. And we still do think that there are some gaps which need to be filled. And we have come up with a revised work plan which would require us to continue holding some public hearings in the month of May with a view to ensuring that we cover all the bases, so to speak. The first and the most significant work that we need to do is actually based on the mandate on the issue of enforced disappearances, where the mandate requires us to establish the fate and whereabouts of persons who have been disappeared. We have done extensive work in this area, but there still remains some work to be done. So the Commission would in-house, through evidentiary analysis, look at what has been done so far on this particular subject, and to establish or to determine which victims we were able to establish their fate and whereabouts, and those that are outstanding, and to also determine what is the problem with those particular cases, and what is the way forward. If the Commission finds that for the purposes of our work and the timelines that are available, this would continue to be a cold case for us, meaning that we have no possibility of making any significant headway, we would acknowledge that fact and try to make recommendations to the government in our report as to how to deal with these issues going forward. So that is a very significant aspect of the work that we have to do. I can confidently say that for many of the enforced disappearances, we have been able to account for the victims, to establish their fate and whereabouts during the course of the Commission's investigations. And I can just give a few examples. It's been the story that the government gave with regards to, say, Dabamaraina, Manlafikor, Aliulo, and others, was that they were being taken to Janjambure, and the vehicle in which they were somersaulted, and those individuals escaped. So that was the story, and when they escaped, they've not been seen again since. And that was a clear case of disappearance because they were in the hands and custody of the government, and without any good explanation, they have not been seen since. But through the investigative work of the Commission, we have been able to establish that these people did not even run away or disappear as suggested by the government. They were executed by the junglers on the instructions of the head of state, and that they were buried in some unidentified graves somewhere in Kanilai. So when we look at the issue of enforced disappearances, these are the kinds of things we would be able to address in that particular report. And for those cases wherein, well, we have not been able to make any significant headway, for instance, the case of Kanyiba Kanyi, we should be able to explain that this is how far we have gone. This is the snag. We could not go beyond this point, and then we make recommendations for future activity. The other point we have to look at is some unlawful killings for which we had started an investigations, but we could not really carry it to conclusion. One example is Mariama Kamara, who was killed at Hamza Barracks together with her husband. We have established the fact of the killing, but we have not been able to establish who actually carried out the killing. But considering that these two individuals were in fact employees of the government in the armed forces, and they were killed in a government barracks, and the government did not take any significant steps in the investigations, would in fact seem to suggest some government interest or involvement. But we cannot leave it to assumption. We have to progress the investigation to its logical conclusion. So we will reassess this particular case to see how far we can take it, to see whether we can really reach a conclusion on this. The other issue is the attempted assassination of Honorable Justice Usman Silla. On this particular one, we were expecting some junglers to come and testify, but unfortunately, that could not happen because of certain unforeseen events that have recently taken place, making it impossible for the concerned witnesses to come and testify before the Commission. As it is, the situation could change possibly later in the coming days or weeks. So we have developed a strategy as to how to put together the relevant evidence that is available out there on the attempted assassination of Honorable Justice Usman Silla. And in that regard, what we may do is try to put together all the open source material on it, including interviews by both the victim and other perpetrators, and then we put the evidence in through the investigating officer and see what the Commission could make out of that. I think we should be able to make a compelling case of that in a public hearing. There are certain site visits that the Commission should also carry out just for the purposes of completeness of the work. We have to visit certain interesting places, possibly in Kanilai and maybe outside the jurisdiction, with a view to trying to collect more forensic evidence about the situation in those places. I see Ms. Commissioner Carr is raising something. I just do not wish to give full details of what this particular inquiry entails. And that is why I am skirting through some of the details. I'm sure you would understand the consideration behind that. Thank you very much, Mr. Carr. On the issue of the 30 December, there's been questions have been asked as to why the Commission did not make that as a theme for investigations. We have to be brutally honest to the events that happened in this country. Much as many Gambians, if I may say, most Gambians would want to believe that as at 30 December 2014, Jammeh's government was illegitimate in the sense that it was a brutally repressive government against the Gambian citizens. That is a view that many people would hold. But nonetheless, it was still the lawful government of the Gambia. So an attack on that government would still be treason under the laws of the country, which makes 30 December attack a crime under the laws of the country, even though for some people it could be seen as a legitimate attack on an illegitimate government. But that is a matter for debate. But the Commission is not necessarily so concerned about the politics of that. We should just remain focused on the law, and the law is that the attack was a crime. Our mandate is not necessarily to investigate crimes. Our mandate is to investigate human rights violations. And therefore, we cannot really put a focus on 30 December attack. Just like we did not put a focus on the Farafenni attack or on the Katong attack. But however, the aftermath of the attack of 30 December led to a lot of rights violations committed by the government. Like, for example, family members of suspected perpetrators being arrested and detained and sometimes tortured over extended periods of time. And that is punishment by association. You punish a person simply because the person is related to someone. So this aspect of 30 December attack has been investigated. But we are also considering the violations of rights of direct perpetrators of 30 December. And we are looking into the possibility of calling a witness or two on that particular subject. This is not really to denigrate or to trivialize the significance of 30 December in the political history of Gambia. No, we're just staying true and focused to the mandate, which is to investigate human rights violations. So 30 December attack would serve as a context into our investigation of what happened to those who were suspected to have been participants or related to the suspected participants. But that aspect has extensively been dealt with. We've called a number of witnesses on that, but still we're hoping that maybe we can call one or two more witnesses on that. The Commission has also realized that its work is perhaps not felt in certain parts of the country. Some communities think that some of the rights violations that occurred there have not been dealt with in the Commission. This certainly was by no means deliberate. We were guided by mainly gravity of events and also the complaints made by the people and the thematic approach to the investigations. But in order to ensure that we have reached as far as possible in all Gambian communities, we have decided to hold more hearings about rights violations that happened or may have happened in all other regions of the country wherein we have not had significant witnesses. And that is why yesterday we had victims from Jambanjeli. So hopefully in the coming weeks we would hear victims from other places like LRR, CRR, or URR. Then there is this important allegation that has happened in this commission. And I use my words advisedly. It's allegation, simply because we've had only 1 or 2 witnesses or anecdotal evidence on this subject. This is the issue of missing babies or babies being sacrificed. The members, the audience may recall, or the commission may recall, the testimony of Silaba Samate, wherein he talked about on 3 separate instances where babies were brought to the NIA, and he believed they were being taken to Kanilai for sacrifice. The commission has also had evidence in private suggesting that babies were also sacrificed by the former president, Yahya Jammeh. So we have these 2 pieces of evidence on this subject matter. And the commission values the importance of addressing violations against children, and that is why we had a Gender and Children's Committee which would look into gender-based violence and also violence against children. So the commission deems it important that this aspect, these allegations, be looked into with a view to seeing whether there is anything really to substantiate or to support it. So in that regard, the commission has devised a plan to look into this, and that may at some stage perhaps possibly crystallize into public hearings wherein we would receive evidence on this matter. But it's all a matter for investigations at this stage. It had partly been investigated, but it would require more investigations to move it from the realm of an accusation to at least maybe some prima facie case that these things did occur. So we would look into that. We had at the beginning of the year indicated that we hope to have sexual and gender-based violence hearings part 2, but the investigations has not really yielded sufficient evidence to warrant a second bite at the cherry. But there are certain residuals that the commission would want to look into. So we hoping to call at least 2 more witnesses on this. These 2 witnesses had been earmarked a long time ago, and their statements had been taken. But we were hoping that we would receive more, which would warrant an SGBV part 2. But as it is, we would have these 2 witnesses at least. And there are some significant residuals. There are some important witnesses who we still need to hear to give us a better understanding of what was happening, and to better give us a better understanding of who President Jammeh was and some of the things that he did. So for that, we have earmarked 2 important witnesses who we will call sometime this month to tell us more about these things. And of great significance also would be on the Langtombong Tamba case. Why that case? What actually happened? And who did what? We know who was charged with what. We know who are the witnesses, but we need to know the antecedents. We need to know the motives. We need to know the context, the underlying reasons behind that case. And that would, I mean, it would set the record straight, at least for the purposes of history, actually what happened in this country with regards to that. And finally, the last issue, the Commission is considering getting a women's perspective about the violations that happened in this country. We've done the SGBV, and I think we have had very important hearings on that. There is also an important report that was produced, I think is by ICTJ, on the experiences of women during the 22 years of JAME. Certainly not all of that would be relevant for the work of the TRRC, but a good chunk of it is significant and is directly on the issues and really support the body of evidence that has been put together by the Commission. So to further validate that and to better enrich the material that's been collected, the Commission is considering calling at least representatives of women who would talk about the experiences of women generally on the issues that concern the Commission for the mandated period. So these are the issues that we hope to deal with during the month of May, and hopefully this would ensure greater completeness of the work of the TRRC and would further enrich the body of evidence that's already been collected. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, indeed, Council, for those details on regarding the supplementary items we are taking up now until the end of May. We will endeavor to complete these items as much as we can, and we would then continue working on the final report of the Commission and close business on the 30th of June, and hopefully present the report to the President a few days thereafter. But thank you again for those details. Council, if you're ready with this morning's witness, you may please proceed now.
Mr. Chair, my colleague Sagar Jahate would lead the witness. Thank you.
Thanks.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, Commissioners and members of the audience. We are ready to proceed, Mr. Osher. My apologies. The witness is by video conference, so the usher has nothing to do with it. I will refer it to the technical people. Thank you very much. Can we have the witness on the screen, please?
Thank you.
Hello, Mr. Conteh, can you hear us?
Yes, hello, Council. Yes, I can hear you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We thank you very much for agreeing to testify before the TRRC.
And thank you for the invitation.
Are we having the Mandinka interpretation?
Yes, we are here.
Can we start?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Can you interpret what I have just said, or would you like me to repeat it?
Okay, repeat it. Let's go.
Okay, good morning, Mr. Conteh, and thank you very much for appearing before the TRRC this morning.
Akoy sama Mr. Conteh inumbara bake isonta ka finti TRRC nyatiling la nyinsumanda.
Thank you, Council, and thank you, TRRC, and thank you to everyone who's involved in this process, and thank you for the invitation. I'm honored to be here today.
Sedo fanang TRRC numbara ay council numbara ay mobe numbara fanang akase wota pour ka fenti TRRC nyatelum la somanda.
I understand it's about 4 a.m. over there, so we are really grateful that you're up this early to testify.
Council ko ngalon ko je talannani wato suba albeoleto bari nyin ketanye se woti isonta pour ka CDR ke.
Yes, it's 4 a.m. here, but I'm so grateful. To be here at least to give TRC my view about regarding the subject matter of your investigation and the proceedings.
Akata sewoti je tonya talannani suba ifana albeoleto de bari mi du nyin ketata fana sewoleti pour ka funti TRRC ñatilum la kumo membada pour ata financier yitandi ka banque ka fo moli ñanta diamu menkela.
Before we go any further, I would like for you to take the affirmation. Because you are not physically here with us, we are not able to swear you, unfortunately, but we are required to affirm you.
Abijanimbe duna kul kuna belafila nyinna pour abekole ko kaliole mdoron ibe menkela wairi mantara jam fanto dame be kurano dunne bulu ye kali barbitun hanimbi ka bambandi ko ibina membe fura be kala to nyalti wala na laftola.
Yeah, that's fine.
Can you kindly repeat after me?
Bidon nate mem foyte be seyla wala kan.
Yeah.
I affirm that
I affirm that I, Samsideen Conteh, affirm that
I will speak the truth,
I will speak the truth,
the whole truth,
the whole truth,
and nothing but the truth.
and nothing but the truth.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
As you know, my name is Sagar. We have already been introduced. I will be guiding you today in your testimony.
Ako ya benyamin ato musagar ledi komando albendanu ayafa itandi la yalonne.
You can hear the interpretation in the background from Mandinka to English and vice versa. We also have various other interpretations into the local languages, so please take very short statements.
Akabe la manian le nyinna ko kanna soro nyi ba mo la dumala ni nyini ngaro keda bar hanin kabi fanan kango do fanan be kanna soro kanne siyo kono jang.
Okay, all right.
To also avoid overlap in our speeches, kindly listen to my questions first before you respond.
Nung hanin kabi abeda ni la fanan ninga nyini ngaro ke isi wati dandam bula folo janni be jabiro gale saje alla kuma kawol nyin ite sela nyokan.
Okay, no.
I understand you're also quite soft-spoken, so we would appreciate if you would project your voice so that we can hear you more clearly.
Nunga imfana mfaham la ko ila dia mo nyin aka mang saribake bari isi kang sikan domanding pour ngela dia mo nyin moy.
Yeah, I will do my best.
We will appreciate that. Just to give you a brief overview of what we'll be discussing this morning. It's going to be on a very discrete issue on judicial interference. We would like you to give us your experience whilst you were acting as a magistrate in the judiciary. I hope everything is understood and you're ready to begin.
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay, kindly give us your biographical information, including your name, your date of birth, and your occupation.
Yes, my name is Samsideen Conteh. I was born in Faraba Bantam village, Combo East District, West Coast region.
Nguluta Faraba Bantale between Brikama Tundo Lemjeti.
When
yes,
were you born?
my date of birth is August 17, 1982.
Mbuluta August Tiltani Wurawulo 1983.
82, I believe.
82.
And where do you come?
Mintole.
Mr. Conteh, can you hear us?
I've lost you for a moment. I don't know how.
All right, but can you hear me now?
Yes, I can now.
Great.
Mintole.
Kindly tell us where you reside now.
I'm at Kent, Washington State, United States of America, USA.
In which country, please?
Bankujuma.
USA, United States of America.
United States of America, Bangkok.
And that's obviously why you can't join us today here at the TRRC in the Gambia.
Amunda bitang ben bitilo mendang inimbe nyomoy ka wolto be sabatri ndamendo.
Yes, Councillor.
Kindly give us a brief history of your education.
Kumala sutun kamarong ila londo nyin karango nyi ya damur damira ning faya kumfa damendo tariko nyin sata nyeba.
I attended Farabantam Primary School from 1980.
Nga follow Farabanta Primary Karambungol to
from 1988 to 1994.
Kabo 1988 kata 1994.
Then from 94 to 97, I attended Nusrat Junior Secondary School.
Between 1988 for 1994, Nusrat Karambungole ton.
I joined Nusrat Junior 94 to 1997.
Now follow 94, Nusrat Karambungo for 1997.
Then 1997 to year 2000, and Nusrat Senior Secondary School.
Data Nusrat la Karambumbato, Kabo 1997 kata 2000 Sangokang.
Then after 2001, I joined, I did Gambia College. I was Gambia College from 2001 to 2004.
Data Gambia College kadamura 2001 kata 2004 Sangokang.
Can you kindly tell us what course you were pursuing at the Gambia College at the time?
Gambia College waro benebe londi karangola je. Ibi mfanna jumale karankanje.
It was High Teacher's Certificate, HTC.
Nga ITC le karanje, nga HTC le karanje, Higher Teacher's Certificate. Wale mkaramundo moro la makamo le moti.
Please proceed.
Then, year 2008, I joined the University of the Gambia Faculty of Law.
Between 2008, ngata Gambia la University oto ila fanna menka lua karangoke ndunta oto.
After you finished your HTC course at the Gambia College, did you pursue any teaching after that?
Briela HTC karango bang college o nyinto. Fo inata na dun karandum to moriala la bang.
Yes, I taught for some time, but it was, I had some other issues, so because I was not just into that. So I taught for some time, then I decided that I should just quit and join the university.
Nga karandiro kele wati sutunga mao mebake bitum bari bitu wiring hammo mankenu woti nga karandiro kele rondomandi nata boto tumole nata dun university onyinto.
Please proceed.
Yes, so at the university I did my 4-year LLB program.
University oto nga sanjinani karango kije memu LLB makamoti.
Can you tell us what the LLB program is? What kind of degree is it?
First of all, LLB program mo degree sifalam.
Is the bachelor's in law.
ka fole bachelors loi karangola karola.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Inumbara, Tenten.
So I completed the program 2012.
No
I believe May.
Mekaro no program oba Mekaro kono 2012.
Then I had an opportunity to join the judiciary after that as a first-class magistrate.
Alay bunda ele nyautumole nata dun na kito tamandi bunda ala na kiti bunda nyina kadunje kake magistrate.
Then I worked for briefly, then we joined the bar program at the Gambia Law School to do the bar vocational course.
Nga karang nga odo ko ke wati sung bitun nata muru kana londo lafa ba program wala wafanamu lua do ku bunda la karang leti intentenda o karang fananna.
And how long did you work as a magistrate before you went to pursue your bar?
Yanni bela nyimba kela itarta kitindiro Kenya la fo wati jelu kake kitindir ladi.
It was I believe about 3 months because I was appointed June, July, August, September. I believe September, October we started the bar program.
Na me karisaba londe kadu June lem nga damuta July kata August karo kang bitungo tambiru lemu nata na nyimba programo damuta.
And how long did the bar program last?
Nyimba program mo nying ayata wati jellala.
It was for a 1-year program from September to June. I think that's when we did the exam.
Wo amunta sanji kililong kabo September karo kono lenga dati kata June kang.
Did you do it here in the Gambia and where?
Yela nyimba program mo yake Gambia jan anu minto le fanamu.
Yes, I did the bar in Gambia at the Gambia Law School. It was situated.
Ha nga karang ke Gambia la University of Tojang nga na
Gambia Law School.
Gambia la lua karambungoto.
It was situated at around it was opposite the former Parliament building, the National Assembly building.
Amonta utumo anina deputy bumba follow le betilindi nunyola karang nga kedaming.
That is on the Independence Drive in Banjul.
Independence Drive bedo nyim Banjul sata kono.
Yes, Council, yeah.
JLM.
Okay, thank you very much. And after you finished your bar, were you successful, and what did you do after that?
Biri yela nyim ba programo karang nyim bang fo inata na ganyele bang andu inata na muneke kotenke.
Yes, I passed the bar.
Ha nga banyi nga ganyele.
I understand you did very well as well. My apologies for interrupting you. I understand you did very well during your law degree.
Nganyim faham le ko ya kata bakel no ila degree program nying wato mene ba karango kan ya kata bakel.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Fo se ko ndim fo no nyawoto ba.
Well, I believe, yeah, I tried. I tried because I graduated from the University of the Gambia as the best graduated law student 2012-2013.
Nga kata bakele katu nga okarang ketumo men na hanfo nga londi kondi boke. Bitun tel ngbe baka matake la tumen nan tata talibo le kono men yalon ko telem talibe nyaton koluti men ye gagné basoton o loi karang la karola wo bundala.
If you don't mind me saying so, I believe you did better than try.
Ni ngameren sa fo no ya kata bakel wala fizara ka fo ko nga katale.
Anyway, I believe I tried.
Ngamera de latala ko nga katale.
Thank you for your modesty, but you should be very proud of yourself.
Thank you so much, Council.
What did you do after you finished your law school?
Then I went back to work.
And where did you go back to work?
I was posted to CRR North.
CRR North.
Mr. Conteh, can we just go a little bit back? Because you have already told us that you served as a magistrate even before you went to do your bar. Kindly tell us where you served when you started as a magistrate up to the point where you actually were posted after your law school.
Mr. Conteh ngamurun ko madomanding afanyambang ko mando ya afanyano biri yela university program onyimbang yesafero ke kiti obunda nyinde nyatne tombon ke kiti telati biri ye kiti telati yesamba do ko la minto le nung anu janni gabri yela ba fana nyimbang yem samba minto janni be fudala woto.
First, after my appointment, I was attached. I did my induction at the Banjul Magistrate Court.
Bitung birina ko lu pareta karang la karola nga ko follow Banjul Magistrate kiti bundala.
Under, I believe, the principal magistrate was Alagbe.
Nga mera otumo memu kundong koti je ka faine Alagbe.
What was his first name
was
and
from,
where was he from?
Ato follow dung anu abura mintole.
I believe his first name is Taiwo, something like that.
Na mera to follow aseke for Taiwo tibam misila wala.
And I believe he's from Nigeria. He's Nigerian.
Do you know if he was recruited locally or on technical assistance?
Yala na bang fo ala sababu ka nati do gola jam fo ya kurukuru gambia jande bang fo ya boni na manele ya nati jam pura ina de marola.
I believe, he was recruited locally.
And how long did you spend at the Banjul Magistrates Court?
Anu itarta kitio teyo la Banjul kiti bundato fo wati jelu.
It was for a month.
How long did your training last?
Ile in karandiro nyinke karande puriye ke kiti telati ay wati jelelta.
It was for a month. The induction was for a month.
Did you sit on any cases?
A month, 1 month.
Did you sit on any cases on your own during that period at Banjul Magistrate Court, or the entire period was spent training under Magistrate Taiwo Alagbe?
4. Ilo karang wato nyinkono wati nana soro ndalama ite fango ye fansu ndia mota ya kiti ya. 4 yelo karang beke Alagbe le kotoba be karandi kan kasilo litandira kiti kata nyame.
Usually, I believe, and I was attached to him, and so if he's in court, I will sit next to him.
Wairi entela do ko nakindi atele bala natebe kito la be kiti bunkono ndeka si atele dala.
So you were not sitting on cases independently?
Yeah.
Amunta inana ibukasi ifayiga kitio ta ifangwe ifansunta ifansun kitio ke ifangwe.
Yeah, no, at that time I didn't sit on cases. I was with him.
Hani wotembo manfansun kito luta between wairi mbatele balanka si atele bala.
And after you finished your period at Banjul, what happened thereafter?
Then I was posted to Bundung Magistrate Court.
Bundung Magistrate Court and
how long were you in Bundung?
I believe it was about a month or so, then I was moved to Canifing.
Were you sitting on your own at Bundung, or were you still on the training?
Yes, I did. I sat on a few cases, I believe, yeah.
And who was the principal magistrate at the time at Bundung?
Bundung je kiti bundaro jumala munum principal ode je memu nyaton ko kiti ndal bela nyaton ko o wato la je.
At that time, I can't remember clearly who was there.
That's all right. Then after a month, you were moved again to Kanifing Magistrate's Court.
Yes.
And how long did that last?
It was about a month too. Then we went for law school. To do the bar.
And
during this time, do you know why you were frequently posted? Why the frequency in the different postings you had from Banjul to Bundung and then to Kanifing in a very short period of time?
Ite alonda ba wa dalilo me asabu ke soundin samdi yesamba folo banjulu yebondi banjulu yesamba bundu yebondi bundu yesamba Kanifing o wati surundi wonyin kono bi alonda dalilo me asabu ba.
I believe because I was appointed by, when I applied, I was appointed by that time. The Chief Justice was Justice Ajim.
Nga long wotumo wairi yendeta kutakele memu Chief Justice ti wotumo ika fole Justice Ajim wotumo wale mu Chief Justice ti memmarta kitola.
So Ajim, I met Ajim. Ajim taught us at the University of the Gambia land law.
Ajim yen karandile Gambia la University oto menketa banko fanan Kenya la luati banko keno lua.
So I'm not sure if I'm smart, but maybe he believes. I'm smart because I believe I did very well in his courses. So.
Bitum malo fo nte fango kunta fola ko nyamentale bar bitum atefe nyamentale wala na bitum ayo kolu ke proka wo karango ke aninka o makamulu ta bitum wo dalilo le be sabula ngambira atayaje ko nyamentale do ko nyindo.
So maybe he saw something in me. Maybe that's why he wanted me to go through those courts and
namera kule jente to wotumo bitum wadalilo le ya sabu ate lafta prunte ngadung wo kran silolula na wo silota nyanta tala nyamin pour katenten do ko nyin kono.
In your view, Mr. Conteh, the frequency of your transfers, did it have any adverse effects on the dispensation of justice?
Itela mira lodo nyi sounding o me alon ko e be bulari nyono ma ila karola fo idela mira lodo pour ka tonya sabatindi molla kitiol kono ba yamra e ko leal sabu ma yena ba.
If I can just elaborate some more, I'm sure in those different courts you went to, because of the time limits, you were not able to perhaps start and finish any particular case before you were transferred.
Ninga transahan ka binsa akono fanu ni hani domandi wala nyindi ko nyinkiti ol sabunda sabol be sambala dinkirato isi kiti o doltaje ite kumfala folo ye saundi kiti bunda do yo fanan damuta ite o kumfala be o sifanda.
Yes, it did, because some of the files, I remember when I was going through some of the files, before some witnesses finish their testimony, you have to be moved to another court and keep moving. So it definitely affected even the speed and the process. And
ay kitolu dolu male katu hani faylo lu nyul fonglu men ya lon ko kadum bulo kono ni ngay jibe nga kolu menu dati nin tata domandin rong isaje wo sawndirolu no keta wo o katarle wo mambang nsita karadola yo wode wo muto nyalti ay kolu nasindle domandin do ko nyin na karola
anu sedol fanan kidol beje ni la sedandiro damuta hani buka bandron ite sawundi.
In fact, that is what I was going to come to. I believe that, or perhaps I should throw the question to you, do you believe that the different transfers or the frequency at which magistrates were transferred at the time affected the speed of cases, or did it contribute to the delays in cases?
anung han ka be lafta nala no nyini karole fa itala miralo ya miralo ko magistrate ol ni wala nyin kitin telalti ila wati sutun soundon ke bondin kidi bunda do yesamba en kidi bunda do itala miralo ya mira wo ke diamol ni molla diamol men ike muda akela bango nyanga ka tariyandi le bang fo aka mendi le bang.
Oh yes, definitely it did affect the process. The process is delayed some cases because
ha to nyala ay kitolu jamal le nasindi ke sumayandi katu ne kuma ya pakidrong ma bang lota bo akako mendile.
Yeah, for me, if I start a case, I would definitely want to try to finish it within a very reasonable period of time, but they keep moving, and that definitely affected this and the speed of the process.
Nta mumolti alon ko nga kitimen damuta nkala file nga atamandi wati kanyandi kono nga bang anyanta kala nyamin bari bitunyi soundiro wonata sabule hanfo wo kitolu meni alon ko nke paki kanasi kamme wala kadukundiro sabu wo kitol la karola.
So from Kanifing Court, that's when you went to the Gambia Law School, and subsequently when you finished that you were posted to CRR.
Munda kabo Kanifing Court biribota Kanifing kiti bunda do wato la mitate la londi makamo nyinka kumva wala mitate la luwa karango nyinna Gambia Law School biriyo banda minata na murundi do kola ko memu kiti ndirla di hanka be yesa unde janjambure tundo kan.
Yes, Councillor.
Ha kitawanyala.
And in which particular district in CRR were you posted?
CRR memu janjambure tundo kan di yesa mbase fu tundu jumala kan.
It was CRR North, Georgetown, Janjambure, Kabu, and Kuntao.
Amunta CRR North, wala CRR Kabu Karola, nga follow Janjambure, Kaboto, nga tentendule wala nyama, hanfo nata futa Kuntao.
You were a traveling magistrate.
Mundete mu kiti tela me yalon ko eka murumurunne eka tamale.
Yes, yes.
Ntemu kiti ndirla menka tanina.
Can you tell us how your role as a traveling magistrate was? I mean, how would you conduct your cases, or how would you preside over cases in all these different regions you were posted to?
Pesa fono komisong hanin kabri yeke nyin kiti telat me alon ko ikata male kata dingirani kabu dingira kata fu dingirat pesa fono komisong ay ikela do kol nyin landi nyaadi landu ka do kol nyin ikela siyo nyin ke mintole.
So I mean, I used to allocate some days to a specific location, for instance, in Janjambure.
Nka kitolu sotole dinkiral to komisali kama nin kumem damento nka ke olto komisali kama nin Janjambure mo nsake Janjambure.
So for instance, on Monday I will sit in Janjambure.
Komisali kama tenango nsisi Janjambure.
Then Tuesday to Kuntao.
Talata lungu misali kama isaje nsita Kuntaur.
And Wednesday probably at Kaur.
Isaje ning arabo mu jama isaje nsita Kaur.
But I mean, later on, some of those cases, I mean, dropped because I was trying to be very fast with, some of the work that I was doing.
Bitumbirin ko tatafanya ta wakitolu na tatala katunte nga katale purka jeko kitolu ninga memmadro nga tamandi tariya kono me yalon ko satara ate mela ate dukundila anyama wala na ntenga na kulu tamandi onya.
Can you tell us what necessitated the need for a traveling magistrate in those regions?
First of all, mune jare tala puruka manji kiti tela samba o dingiraro puruka tama o dingiralo bere ka bo dingiraro kada bo dingiraro.
I believe that, every citizen in that country should have access to justice, and not just justice, but the quality is also important. So.
La talako mobe daoda nin kuketa inyanta tilimu nin tonya soton naleje wo dalilo le ya sabu ngalo wala nyin tanin na sabu andu kiti wakita kumaya tale ngake anyama hanfo ko anyanta tamala nyamin ayke wonya.
So there was no permanent magistrate in any of these regions, and that is why you had to travel from place to place. Is that correct?
Amunta kiti tela te nyin dingira do me yalon ko abe sabatiri njele. So wala ya sabu yete sambaje puri kari tama kabu dingira do kara dingira do.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Ha.
And was that as a result of scarcity of magistrates to do this, to be posted there permanently?
Fo dalilo membe ko ma wala nyindi ko magistrate wala kiti tela nyingi di dasatal no wala sabu nyimman soro no bam pour que sambaje wala taraje wato bela.
Yes.
Ha wala mtonyati.
And do you believe that as a traveling magistrate you were able to do justice to all of those cases in all of those regions, or did you face some challenges?
Fo ila ranyina lako kake kiti tela do me yalon ko e ka tamale ka bo dingira do kara dingira do e ka tilu to nyani tilu mo sabati no nyin molien no bang fo ka kolya ko dol sodade.
I mean, yes, I definitely had some issues, and that was one of the reasons I believe I was transferred from Janjambure to Farafene and Esau.
Tonya kololu ka koleyale nka koleya kolu dolu takile lata la fangol nata ke dalilo ti me ya sabu ina tambondi Janjambure kansa undi kansa mba Farafene
An Esau.
aning Esau.
And what are some of these issues?
Muna ka ke nyim ko dolti nyim koleya ko dolti.
I mean, I had an encounter with the governor at that time. So he was, I believe, some political issues.
Sorry, Mr. Conteh, I wasn't able to hear you very clearly. Can you repeat what you said?
Yes. I mean, I had an issue with the governor at that time.
Amunta ko yemun governor mun fen governor façon
What was?
Amunta kule soto dala ning governor nyin tema kule dunta ning governor tema.
Can you tell us what issue you had with the governor and who was he?
Afanya bayine governor nyi memo kumanda nyinde ina mun kule soto anu atara mu jumati no.
And so the governor at that time was, I believe, was Mr. Ganye Toure.
Governor membije wala kumanda nyin wotumo ikafai na Ganye Toure.
So when we went there, because I mean, we were directed to where I was posted. When we were directed to go and meet the governor, as usual, maybe that was the protocol.
Mio adumbiri na broko saundije yenyina fonyen kon sitanga futa governor ma na nyati linyola kakulu bonyoto katu wole sarto linyil tamandi nyati.
So we had some issues like our accommodation. I mean, there was no place for a magistrate there.
Ko kolea mumem foloti wole mnyinti ko jia dula kuo. Walafta kalambulu kolea kuoti puru nyanta jia la dinkira mento mbe tarla dame.
So we had to, I was, let me speak for myself. I was directed to go and see him because he was the governor. He knew the place, so he could help. Because the judiciary, I mean, I don't think that's even proper.
Yo bitumbiring woketa yen sambaje inatanyi na fanyanga futa atema atelom governor atele ijelong puru atasimako rodin tella nyanta jia la damento mbetar la damento puru asemako puru ka odinkira nyini nyanta sila damento.
I was going to ask whether that was the role of the governor or the judiciary. I mean, who should have provided you with the proper resources to do your work as a magistrate, considering the fact that, you know, you were traveling from one place to another.
Lafte nyini ngala wala no fa itela mira lo no fang wamu kumanda nyini na do ko wolti bam puru ka dinkira nyini ete be sabat la dame ngamera fo kiti bunda nyi mumem marling do kiti rukunya la wolle la do ko muwoti puru ite la do ko ke eduke no anyama tumala men na ite mu kiti tela te me yalon ko e katamal ka bo dinkira ka bo kata dinkira.
Exactly, and I even had to pay the price. At some point, you know, the place I was not allowed to stay there, and I had to go around by myself looking for a place to live. He was just.
Umuto nyalti katu mbenun damento inata afole puru manyan natar la woto bitungo tumole nte fangole kungo wulita mbe muru na be pur katara dula nyini mfango yenyan tatar la dameng wo de wo mfango yo kele pur kadinkira nyini mfaye.
Considering the nature of your job, wasn't that a bit risky?
Ite yeni ya jube ila do ko nyin alhalo be lare nyame fo ite ya imamira fana manke kudi melon ko jawiya talaba.
It was, because I had to look for a place that was not even safe for me. But, you know, maybe something I'm just stubborn. But I just wanted to serve the people. And as long as my conscience is clear and I don't fear anything.
Umuto nyalti. Wode akole atalde barbitum wairi nte lafta do ko kala na moli ka do ko ken na bankoe. Wada lilo le yasabu mfana wakil tanga usilo ta katu ndamu multime ya lonko hakilo kono abesenari nensondo mo besenari na miraro fana besenari ngole nyama wala na wakil tanga ukulu tama ndio nya.
And even though you wanted to serve your country and the people, as you say, the conditions of service were not very good.
Hani kabi wonya nyarandi nyama ibi watu yangani ya kendo nyi sirra purka duko ke la moli memu la banku dingolti but hani kabi wonya kino nyama fana bari al halo nyi bellari nyama no inyana duko ke la nyamen amanke kudi me alongo ajanguda o nyama.
He was terrible.
Akoleatal nunde.
Did that attract people to the post? Is that one of the reasons perhaps why there was a scarcity of magistrates at the time?
Ima mira wala ko nyin alhalo belari nu nyame nu ino mira wala fana ya sabu fana go kitite lal muka soto nu dango do yata nu do ko nyinto.
Yeah, absolutely, because what I've experienced, you know, I was at some point I wanted to quit, but you know, you just have to, sometimes you just have to stay.
Abe onyalede katu kwenye nkole atale watu wafona atasoto watu me yalon konti tata han fom pare tandahala iyo bari bitu ne ajube dal wakil tanko mbatunga akatanga ajube mfaye drong mole entuje.
You've said that no proper arrangements were made for your accommodation. What about vehicles? Did you have a vehicle that was taking you from place to place?
Ya fo jango man ko landi nu nyama nyana landi la nyama pour ila sabati dinkira anila ku ko tangodol silandum tamaro nu yewdi lal moto.
Yes, I mean, I had a vehicle, but later on, my vehicle, I mean, when I moved to Farfanya, that was when the vehicle broke down again. And I had similar encounter with the judiciary, and because it wasn't fixed, I had to use my own resources, my own money to fix the vehicle.
Abe onyale ngamoto sotole nung bare birinna ta sawun kata Farafenye moto nyin nata ello soto wotumole so nga ko nyin nin kiti bunda nyin nata ntili la wo kama yo bari bitum birin akonyi manna bonyoto wato nata soto ngam fansun kodo leta katama kata nyin do ko la nyin dinkiral to nyanta tal damenuto.
And this was the official vehicle that was allocated to you by the judiciary?
Amunda nyi moto de me yalon ko kitio bunda nyi ila nyaton ko nyi wolle o moto nyi taya di la pour yake la do courant.
Yes.
And during the time that the vehicle was had a breakdown, were you able to actually do your work, or how were you able to get to the different places you needed to be?
Wato mena nyi moto nyi tata fati nyata ikela do ko nyi keno nyaadi le ko tumala mena to kiti tela de me yalon ko ikata ka bu dinkira kata dinkira.
Yeah, so when I had the issue with the governor, because first there was a particular case.
Birinin ko nata soto ku nata dun nin governor tema katu kiti dole nata soto kito me yalonko.
It was about giving false information to the president.
Wo kito tilinta mena wala mnyinti ka kuma soto balo ka kibar soto balo di president wala.
Do you recall the name of the case?
Yes, nyingo kiti nying ato yalo ne ba.
No, I can't remember recall the name of the case.
Aning hakilote wo mutanola nyin tembeng.
That's fine. Can you just perhaps give us a brief summary of the facts so that we understand the context?
Avere ni ma hakilo ma di case ni ma tolong sign case ni tara nyame afanya bro.
I mean, the accused person was accused of giving false information to the office of the president.
Yemen tumi moni ya tumi nyinela kwa kibaru soto balole di president la office auto.
I believe he wrote a letter to the former president, Yahya Jammeh, about the governor.
Ngalong amari letero le safe, letero me ya long ko governor la kolu Kenya ayole safe je ka letero ki president oye.
So I mean,
the same governor that you mentioned before.
Yes.
Ha wole mate commandant kilingolom.
Kindly repeat his name for us.
Gani Toure.
Atomu Gani Toure leti.
All right, thank you. Please proceed.
Inumbara tenten.
I mean, so he was being prosecuted because I found the case file there.
Namlo ibate fongo kiti ndikane katundengo kito la file fongo tarajele.
So I mean, when I went through the file.
Bilimfuta taje nga file nyin soto tumome na nga kono jibe ka kolu karang.
I mean, then I thought to myself, because the office of the president is in Banjul.
So nga konyi njube nga miram faye nga woto president la office obe fo Banjul le.
So I thought, I mean, with respect to the territory, I think the proper jurisdiction would be Banjul.
Bitun kumambe lari ngonya wairi president la office obe Banjul le woto nga mutako. Kito nyin ladula tilindingo wonyanta kela Banjulu sate wole konoti.
So I thought maybe it was ideal to transfer the case to Banjul because
bitun wala nante fana nata nyi miro soto puru woto nyin kito mbatu nga sawundi ay ta Banjulu yeta ko nyin kiti woto.
Was the accused person a resident in CRR at the time?
Fo tumbi morning fo am moldi
yes. Yes, I believe. I mean, he was from CRR.
Allah Taala mari benu CRR.
Kindly proceed.
So the governor didn't like that.
Tumbringa okeonya kakito saundi wa manna dia kumanda unyi yede amandia governor iferen.
Immediately I did that, usually because we used to go to his residence, so I was called.
Bringa okeonya durong otumo lem inatante kumandi purunyin kamala ngatandang kung atela.
But he wasn't speaking directly about the issue, but I could sense that he wasn't happy.
Ala kumakangolu kono. Amunta kumo samba nyamin amang kumo nyimfo atola baribitung kumo nyintanya ya itandiko abenyin kukari lela kumo lufokang.
And then after that case too, there was one case. It was somebody. It was a civil. I believe it was a civil case.
You believe it was
civil case?
I believe it was a civil case.
Before we move on to the next case, kindly tell us why you felt that Governor Toure was not happy with the decision that you made.
Janni betende no kidi fulanya nyindi la flamena kumo fulada afu bayalo ne dalilo me asabu birite o kango nyinta pour ka o case nyinta kidi amo nyinta ka saundi na Banjul yalo dalilo me asabu kumanda o nying amanse o kango nyinka yementa.
Yeah, if the case was in Banjul, I think, because I felt something was not normal, because the accused person even came to his residence, and I saw it was an awkward moment.
Na mera konyin tata nyamindal alafta keja uyale kato hani yemen tu mifango anatale fao ate fango la bungoto yo bitun kolu nata la nyaming dal aketa ku kolengol ti dal.
Probably he was just using his powers to intimidate.
Musafo no fang abala sembole tamandi kam pour ka nyim Mario silandi.
Sorry, who was using his powers to intimidate who?
Jomala be munafankang wala sembola no pour ka nyuma silandi.
The governor to intimidate the accused person who was being
Amunta governor lebe tumi monyi silandi kan ala sembola.
And do you know whether or not he was also interfering in that particular case?
Yala ne bang fanam fo imalo bang fo ate governor nyi mema ate kumanda nyindi fo aba dabula kan o kiti onyi fanan kono le bang.
You know, interestingly, I've learned that, you know, because that, I mean, they used to influence certain magistrates who were I mean, around the area.
Nata men korosije. Wala mnyindi ko nkafo men naten kadabula kitol to kitirila dolu menu fanawulu men ya lonko e tambitani njela nata nyinje ko aka ala kango dundi wolu konole aka hammo dundi wolu kono purate lafta ko la nyamin ay tamawonya.
Could that have been one of the reasons why the case was moved closer to home so that the governor could have direct access to the magistrate?
O ila miraro wala manke ko nyinde dalilo me asabu ye kiti nyinta ya saundi ka sutandi sula isaje suo kono isaje governor memu kumando nyinde isaje asisilo soro no nyinka kango soro nyin kiti kono.
Yes, because I believe I've heard it. I mean, they influence a couple of magistrates and then tell them, like, you do this, I mean, tell them to do this, and then you do it or you face the consequences. So I've heard him say that, like, I mean, they used to micromanage some magistrates or to do.
Amunta keta wale nyama katu mbata nyinkala mangamo kitindirla ludolo aka kangole diwo la kafo enko iba kela tenne ibe nyin kukari kela tenne ni wonte ni ma woke ibe nya tilin na kole ya kul le men ya lonko ibe takila. Amunta dala tengani yo munyine puru ate yo magistrate la ko tamandi nyama ate lafta kolu ye kenyamin pour ka wolu dundi woto.
And who did you hear that from?
Yo mo jumala la karola.
He himself. I mean, because I mean, we used to, I mean, visit him at his place, you know, which was later on for me definitely I regretted why I did that.
Amunta te fangolom kadu wati soto ndankatale ala dinkirato wairin kataje nkataraje bitu mfereti je ko kundi ntamata je fo ay lankena man ngalonga ko nyin tamata nyamin wairin katala dinkirato le.
You heard it directly from the horse's mouth.
Amunda yamo ya tafangole da kono.
Yes, yeah.
Ngama ya fangal.
And was he able to do, my apologies, was he able to do the same thing with you?
Fo oku kilingo nyakiro nyama fana wala kete fana naba.
Yes, and he even went up to the office of the Chief Justice and reported me there.
Ayoleke andu amanda woto ate tatale hanfo Chief Justice fangala office oto katante kalamije.
My question was he able, sorry Mr. Conteh, let's just give a few seconds between my questions so that we don't overlap.
So demanding isaje na diamol nyinkana sela nyoka.
I was asking whether he was able to interfere with your functions as a magistrate at the time. Or perhaps I should say whether he succeeded at doing that.
He tried, but he could not.
Aya katale de bara amante kalanno amam malankunno.
So you were quite different from the previous magistrates that he was able to manipulate.
Amunda dem kidi tela de me yalon ko ifatata la ini do nyol men yalon ko wolle lo benu nje jannita binaje.
Yes.
Please proceed.
Ten.
Yeah, because at some point I was so angry
Katu wati na ta soto kamfata le numbake.
In fact, I even wrote a letter to him.
Han fonga letero fang safe kaki ate fangoye.
That if he continues to interfere in my work,
ning a continue ta kadabula ntela do koto,
I was going to arrest him.
Mbita la lenga muta.
And how did that go?
But my clerk, who was Abdullah Sankare, he told me, no, just forget him, ignore him.
Na clerk utumwe kafume Abdullah Sankare wale na tadia munya kwenye hani kulu kana kulu samba onya inya kasi yatela.
Please repeat what your clerk said to you.
Ila clerk o memfoe as saying kamba memfoe.
He told me to ignore him.
But
did you actually write to him threatening to arrest him?
I wrote the letter, but it was me, but I didn't give him the letter.
Okay, you never delivered the letter.
Yeah.
Later on,
it would have been quite interesting to see how things turn out if you had done so.
Yes, it's just crazy.
All right, thank you very much for some of those examples on judicial interference in your work whilst you were at the CRR. Can you perhaps tell us what your views are on interference with the judiciary or interference with the work of magistrates? I mean, sorry, go ahead.
Kol katara lani nu nyaadi le dabulo men kay dabulo men ke kitiol tamandir nyaato wato men na ibenu kitin imunu kiti teylati janjambula tundo kam memu makati tundo kandi wo wato la.
Throughout this theme on the justice sector, we've been talking through various witnesses about independence of the judiciary and the important principles underpinning that.
Nain siyo nyimbe kono be kitio la fanna men jube kanteng diamol finde da wolem kiti bunda nyin taram fambulo nyin aning de tol me yalon ko wolle kadunga koto watol nyin kono.
Perhaps through your experience as a magistrate, you can tell us a little bit just about the importance of that principle on judicial independence and how interference from the executive or other sectors undermine that particular principle.
Asikeno ila londo raite munejimenje woto wolem kiti bunda nying ala fanna nying ala taram fambulo aning de rodol me alon ko le ka findije dunnunje dabulo men ka keje me alon ko kabo santo de wolem executive wolem ya jame na la bala moldi ke dabulo men ke ko nyingo kiti o nyin tamandir nyaato no watola itata londo ro yemel lonje iso fonye.
I mean, the courts are generally the last bastion of hope for people, especially the weak and the vulnerable.
Can you please repeat that line again?
Yes, I said courts are the hope, last hope for people, especially the weak and the vulnerable, the powerless people.
Kadu wo bundalem bundatme yalonko jikin na bundalem pru molu men yalonko imang kango sotobe kango londele nyamen anin sembe fanantela men yalonko sembo doyata ila lodulalu mambambang amunta wolulaji ko bunda amunta itele ke singolo wala kan.
It should protect the rights of people, especially for me, in particularly the minority and the weak, the vulnerable. These are the type of group that need protection.
Inyanta molle mako ila ke kanta ke tankandi meni ya lonko iketa semben tangoleti menu fanalu man kangosoto ila lodulaluto itenyanta makoiro dila wolle la nyin kammala ni sulata ye makoi ke londisilo kan ke kanta ke tankandi man toro luma meni alonko wolle si batandi.
I mean, if not, it's just gonna be the jungle, the survival of the fittest, whoever can feed on the other. I mean, if there's no regulation, they're gonna do what they want to do.
Naman kenya bina kela wula kono luale tide meye menno ye okunum yo adu ninga natana lwa wale nyama wobe kela kuliti meye alon ka bekeja yala bakele.
So allowing interference, usually it's the powerful people who try to influence the courts.
Ni ajube jama nyin dabulo kito lukono bake sembe malu meni kangosoto wole kalafi ke dabula kito luto pour ke yele mandika ay ke nyama me yalon ko ite laftala wala nyama.
And if you allow it, it's gonna lead to abuse and people taking advantage of the other.
Adunina ta son wala amunta bitu wala mnyinti ko ite kao kangole tamandi wo molu kameni yalon ko sembe tela bitu ikana mantoro la wole kan kela nyanto lutinya.
So condoning judicial interference, you're saying, would allow the powerful people in the society to use the courts to oppress those who are weaker.
Amunta ka song dabulo la kitio la tamandiri nyato surtout kabo sembe malto o ko ka me wulu wala mniti ko sembe ntangol nyi jama kono ika wol dete.
Exactly.
Kake wala nyama.
And I believe that would also undermine other principles such as not discriminating against others, the impartiality of the court as well.
Amunta wala mnyinti fananko aka dolu fanalu ntora le kato wala mnyinti ko ninkiti bunda manna tilimuta man silota men tilinta ibaje la ko fanankana ke kole adoleti.
Yeah, and fairness too, and even law and order, because if people cannot have justice, they might resort to other means.
Wala mtonyati katu tilimu nin kangole nyanta lola katu nimmolu mantonya soto iman tilimu soto wota sikeno ifanalie fere do tamandi ifanalu beji kirim ferolu menula.
That's a great point, Mr. Conteh, because if the last bastion of hope, as you've said, has been undermined and compromised, then people will take the law into their own hands.
Yemen fonya Mr. Conteh akumayata katu mola jiko labango mudamenti abe semberin tuku mumen na jiko membablu niyo nata tinya woto de bitunga belua tala fango bulo konoled.
Exactly.
Welem.
Please proceed if you have anything else to say on that particular point.
So I believe as a judicial officer, as a magistrate, you should do your best to serve and not let powerful people, the government, the president, those in authorities, to use the courts to abuse or suppress other people.
Ite manyana silo dila sembe malula menu beko nying sembe mabalu kata ko president na nyon donyo kotangulu pour woleo sembota kamantoro la mo kotangulu kam menia lonko wolle kata dumalan koluti pour ka sembota mandi wolu kanga ni kela kangota mandi wolu kango manyan kela.
And from what you've said already, I believe you were able to do that very successfully, at least in the CRR.
Comme ya fo nyamenten sainte ite mu molti me ya lonko ya fo nyamenten ite o kele annun ya kele a sotota satandita wato menna e benun munu kidite lati CRR banko kan.
Well, I tried. I think I tried.
Nga katalede na mira roto nga mira de nga katalede.
There you go, being modest again.
Kota ke abita amunta be fankela moti menketa ya fanka nyandi dron.
But considering the challenges at that time and some of the evidence that we have received, I believe that was quite admirable.
Ani kabini ya jibe ko kwale ya kol membe nunji anu ye eden dole men dijang mosaje no kul me alongo anyabo warta.
We have digressed quite a bit, but perhaps let's go back to our plan, which was you were telling us the different courts in which you were posted. From CRR, where did you go to next?
Silang murun koma do mande ya fonyela nu ye koma do nu ka silang gabri boda CRR tundo kan itada min dole kotenke.
So because of the governor trying to interfere in my work,
Katu governor lafta akadabul antela do koto.
And I believe he went even to the office of the Chief Justice.
Chief Justice office.
What did he go and do there?
And I was reported there.
For doing your job?
Yes.
Ha.
And what was the outcome of that?
So the Chief Justice called me.
Chief Justice
Was that Chief Justice Ajim, or who was it?
No, he was the Ghanaian lady. Is it Ajima?
Okay.
Yeah, so she called me and talked to me, but later on she thought, because me and the governor, we cannot work together, so she thought it was best to move me to Farafenni. Which was a good.
But the ammonium fanankola anatakola jube nyaming ay nyim miracle. Nikota mitaning governor tema nyamindal nte tenten nola nte kamben nola purka continue do kuala nyola. Bitu ngamira udali lole ya sabu atenata nte saundi kambondi je kansamba farafenye.
In relation to your conditions of service, there's a question I wanted to ask you about the availability of courthouses in these regions that you were serving as a traveling magistrate. Did you have courtrooms to sit in?
Inka sujining ila doko Kenya al halo nyama kumala menne mu kiti tela ni ko be santol to siara tundo kam mafan labde nyini kala fo kiti bungol le beji santol to ba kila kiti lo kenu dame to bang.
It's so interesting. At Georgetown,
Janjambure, Georgetown.
We used to sit in a police station.
Nkasi police station ole kono.
Wow.
And at Kausu and Kuntautu, I think, yeah. We used to conduct our sittings in a police station.
Anun kaurni Kuntaur fanang, je ulubeto nkakewale nyakili munyama kasi police station ol kono nkakitol kije.
I hope some of the locals were not confusing the court and the police station. Then in that case, I'm sure they would probably go and report civil matters to the police station.
Reda mira razikeno sandoron kol na signol ni sandongol ni ite kol ni ite filila ka foko police station no anin kiti bunda ite filila wato do ni koleal so da malte mai kanata ko bole police station warra nyanata la kiti mol.
It was so awkward. Sometimes I just feel, but for me, I was like the litigants, because my concern was the litigants. So I try to do my best to hear anybody who has any other issue.
Akata wala nyama de na kukebaloleti bari bitum nte hammo be hakilo be menu kan wolle men ya lon ko be kito nyin kono wo dalilo le ya sabu kan kato dan ke pour kan nyin kito lu tamandi nyama men se ke mulu fana la da daluti wo kito la karola.
And I do respect the police and I appreciated the work.
And police all fana
but I never I do not let anyone interfere in my work.
But did that give them an opportunity, the police, for example, to interfere in your work since you were sitting in their premises? Did they have an opportunity to say things to you or to consult you when perhaps they would not have had that access, that direct access to you?
For na police ol nyinga na ra silo dilal bam puru ke da bu yetela do ko nyi kono man tumala na ibela ibe muna fankan ila kisan san wala ibe siri wala ibela kito ke ka wala.
No, I would allow that, because for me, if I'm from work, I go to home and sleep till the following day. So I was not going. I'm usually indoors, so I don't usually from the court to the house.
Mbukaso wala pruitele dabula ntela do koto katu nintana taningana do kota mande funga mbandi nkasa isule ya andu wati jama ante katara suole kono nim mantara do kudla nkatara sinna bungole kono wala na nkatara tenkundi ndula kilingolo.
You've mentioned 2 places where you used to sit in police stations. What about the third area?
Dingira fula yo la fojang ilamen diala ko iko kasi ni bela kidio taman le kasi police la dingira la cordal. Bla sabanya min doldi.
It was at the police station. I mean, all these main venues, places, like the court used to sit at the police stations.
Abe police station on leto de o tembo kai wo kitol menu ngeke nga ulbeke o police station on leto kasi jele. Alu man sansangutumo.
Was it inside the police station premises or outside?
Police station kono lembang fo sansang kono lembang fo bantala.
Inside the police station, at Janjambure, they have a room in the police station, and Conteh Trrc, there's a room, and I believe Kausu, there was a room in the police station.
Bunkono katarajele, Janjambure, bunkono bijele nkasi daming, andung kauru fanang bung fasong bijele bunkono bijele nkasi daming, andung kuntauru fanang bewo nyale ma, bungo bijele nkasi daming konoto.
And after you were posted to Farafenye, was that a permanent post?
Farafenye dung biri ye samba do ko la je la do ko saundi je fo je mu dinkira no ko be sabati la wolto la do ko ba kala je do ne ba.
So Farafenye too, I was posted to Farafenye and SL.
Farafenye fanang biri ye saundi je. Amanke je ga mande Farafenye aning SL ye na do ko samba wolleto.
You were still a traveling magistrate.
Ani kabi mum kiti tela de me alon ko e ka tamale kabu dinkira kata dinkira to yela kiti olake.
Yes.
And what were the conditions there like?
Je dum yela kuol al halo belare nyaadi le.
Farafenye was better, at least they had the court.
Farafenye le fisi
and SL2.
woto akata nyawnyandi wole kiti bunda sotole.
What about SL?
SL dum?
Yes, and SL also.
Aning SL fanang?
Were you provided with security?
Tanko dum yet modi la membe la kuol tanga ifan tankala ba.
Ke kanda.
Ke kanta.
Yes, I was provided. Yeah.
Yeah, makoi wotole.
Were you also able to have a driver for your car?
Moto bonorin la do yo fana dilal bam puri la moto.
Yes, yeah.
Yo fanang kele.
Very well. So after Farafenye and SL, kindly tell us where you went to next.
Beri bu bota Farafenye aning SL afanya bang yesamba minto la kotanke.
Also, how long did you spend at CRR and then at Farafenye and SL?
Ani han kabi ngamur ko ma do mandi yo wati jellel ke do ko la CRR memu janjambure tundo kandi aning Farafenye aning SL.
I believe at CRR it could be about 4 months or so.
Lata la CRR de ngamera sike karnaniti wala dal wo ma fangala.
Then Farafenye too, Farafenye and SL, it was about 3 to 4 months, I believe, yeah.
Farafenye ning SL fanang lata la ko kabo karisaba kata karnani kandal ngawle ko fananto.
And where did you go to next?
Biringi bota woto idata minto la kotanke.
So when I was at Farafenye, that was when my vehicle broke down.
Brimbe Farafenye wotumole munna moto tinyata.
Then I told like judiciary to maintenance it, but it was hard.
Wotumole nga kangofutandi kiti bunda banyi mfoma ko isi fere ke moto nyin dada bare anata dukundi.
So I took the vehicle to the mechanic.
Wotumole munta fongo nata moto nyinta ngasamba moto dada lalia.
Then at that time I said to myself, since SL is kind of closer, because I live at Serakunda, Dipakunda.
Bari nata jako SL woto katata wotumole munata fero ke puruka ajibe fonsina sauno kasi Serakunda dame mudipakundati.
So I told myself, maybe it would be better for me to, because I don't want to stay like that. So I want to travel to SL.
waire kolu be wala nyama malla fi ngatara wotara nyama ndum be kar la tamala le kata esew.
So I was traveling from Dipakunda to Esau every day.
Utumole mbirin saunta Dipakunda nkata male luwolung kabodi Dipakunda kata kitol la esew.
And what kind of transportation were you using?
Sometimes I would have somebody to drop me to Banjul. Sometimes I would have to use the public transport. So I made so that, I get up very early around 5 a.m. I make sure that if I'm using the public transport, maybe 6 o'clock, I'm in the vehicle.
Andu natara misal kamanya ngaje ko wolumbeta mala pasas motolla tala woro wakatar lembe motoko no mbitaka.
Then 7 o'clock I'll be in the ferry at Banjul.
Tala woro wala pro saje wo jama wakatar lembe banyunu ferry woto pour kate.
Then by 8 o'clock I'm usually at Esau at the court.
Ibajala ko bitu jama talan say wakatar lem futata kiti bunda la Esau.
So in such a dignified position as a magistrate, you would get on public transportation to actually go to work. How did that make you feel, and how did that also, how do you think the government viewed you as a magistrate and the important work that you were doing? Do you think that it was valuable to them? Service you were rendering.
Jamala Morocco, any Jamal Catabula Morocco, Ikata. Itala Mira Loro Benyade, or Ku Maslango Benyadile, Itala Mira Loro, Mansakunda, Itala Dukoni, Yamuta Nyadile, Itala Kuro, for Yamrea, Elakudukoni, Yakumayan Dilaba, Ikadukoming.
For me, it was service to my people. So as far as I'm doing the writing and to especially the communities there are there, the weak and the poor and the vulnerable.
And Niaji be otumo kon teka do ko ke molumeni molle men ya lonko bulome kobeng semben tangol la muiti andu molle men fentangoluti o dalilo le ya sabu ndefana nganyim making ngaje ko mbatu ngalo nyilie.
Do you believe the government values
No, not
at all.
So there was nothing to really motivate you apart from the fact that you, in your view, were serving the people and you were doing it for them.
Zero motivation, and that's one of the things that angered me.
Otumo ko kullum bukake mensi hammo dundinte kono purunga nyimmaking nga wakilina do ko la karola wo fona ta kuti me yalon kana tan kamfa back.
Because despite all that I was doing,
katunia jube otumo ntebe kato membe ke kanung.
When the Chief Justice Ajima was terminated, our services were terminated.
Bring Chief Justice Ajamang la doko nyimbri ala doko kumfa ya dahani doko la.
Then the Pakistani Chief Justice Chauhan came in.
Monata Chief Justice ya makamota me ya lonko Pakistan banku dingolem.
Can you just shed a bit of light on the termination of the previous Chief Justice, Ajimang?
Hangabi, Chief Justice member Nunje, Yemena Doko Kumvai, Gavme Ajimang, Ala Byro, Faisa Jekono Fanunyano, Domandumba.
Just briefly highlighting the issues of, or the principle of judicial independence and interference. Did it have anything to do with that?
For comment misal fe wala dabulo menga ke kiti bunda nyina kuta mandri nyato jeng fo ay kusoro ba menni aning me alon ko anu bisujiri ndaba.
I believe it did because she's a very strong lady.
ngalonko wodabi jele katu atemu moleti me yalonko musolo nyawnyandi bari musubambandi mba.
And that do you mean she was independent in the work that she did?
Alaw koto ilo koto mende wala mindi ko mole mat me yalonko akatara lori nga fayen na bala do ko kela buko suji mola.
Yes, and especially I see how to protect me from the governor. That was important for me.
Jama sako ate la lodu la to nteni governor tema tenata kemoti puru kan tang ka kataran ning governor tema nyin kamala wo nkana manto rasutoje.
Do you know how she was dismissed, the circumstances surrounding that?
Ya bay nyadi le kul belari nyadi le ya bay nyamemba.
I believe at that time I was traveling, so I heard had services were terminated and see. I mean, something happens and she didn't feel safe. I mean, so she had to leave the country.
Mbe tama ndio wa rente katama le kito la karola ngamira mbe utamo le kan nata moiko ya la doko londile ya da fanyondi doko lale abe doko menanu.
Thank you. You were telling us about after she left, the Chief Justice, the new Chief Justice was appointed. Can you tell us who that was?
Even Barabake, itarta ka fonyo mbiri yeng ajimang ya dahande ala dogo la inarana kitite da nyaron kodo tombong ika me
the Chief Justice
kuto mendomo kuma fonya la kuoro bang.
The new Chief Justice, the incoming Chief Justice was Ali Nawaz Chauhan from Pakistan.
Chief Justice Kutome Yata Kafole Ali Naha Chahon, what about Pakistan Bangkok?
And so my first encounter with him was when he came. At that time, my vehicle had a problem. So I was, as I told you, I was going to SL. So I'm going to SL. So interestingly, I don't know, someone told him that I was not going to walk.
Yo, najube kolu lalanya kama modona ata ufoa atenko konte bukata do kola.
So I was summoned to the office of the Chief Justice.
Bitu otumola ina tankumande katandanku purunga tandanku of Chief Justice la office oto.
To explain why I wasn't going to work.
Purunga ta sata muna nante bukata do kola.
I mean, to me, that is an insult because I've been, despite all this sacrifice, I was getting early in the morning to no transportation. I just trying to do this work, and I was sitting in SL. My clerks and everybody knew that I was sitting in SL.
Unte kumo fede wo ketante fele ko nendirolem. Katundenga kato membeke moto tembulu na moto ello soto bari wonyawnyanding nka wakili nka kata nkata purkata kito luta adu nka kito luta daming ese wonka si daming ndam man kun kilingute nakla ko lu bijenu do kunyo lu bijenu nimene yalonko ni wala kasi kito lu kunnaje woto nitel kana muri ko kuma façon lu fo womu kusain womu ntefe sain ko mabaleti.
So I was really furious. I was really angry.
Woto briwo kuma fotanya ketanya kamfa baleti.
And I explained, and he asked the master to go and check my files in SL if I want to prove that I was sitting there.
Master of the court, Prueta SU, Katanyin ko kisi foto nyato nyanteka si kito lula jele, Pru aeta o file lujube, nka kito ke file lumenula.
Who are you referring to as the master?
The master was the late Buba Jao.
Master Mumentinu Utumo Willem Tala Buba Jao.
And what was his role?
Mone madela do goti ate master nying.
I believe he's the supervisor of the subordinate courts.
ngalon ko tumo atele ka ya maroke bo kiti bunda la kulu la tamanyala.
And am I correct that his the full title was the Master and Registrar of the High Court?
O mbetilin la banka foko moli ya makamo mendia la to mendia ole master and registrar of the High Court.
Yes.
Ha walam.
Okay, please proceed.
Tenden.
So the master went and he confirmed that I was sitting at SL.
Birim master nyin tata je check atata na kutonya to nyamka kito lukele nkasile SL.
So that was the moment my relationship with the Chief Justice started, because he had respect for me.
Ko tembolem nakole akol damata kadun nin Chief Justice tema ko atanata ko lutamandi nya fasongo memma.
So he asked me, he attached me to his office.
Anataka takante katandi kanakindi ala ofisola.
And he was assigning me, giving me some research works to do for him.
Andu otumo akadokolu dinna prunga kisikisiru dokolu ke ateye.
And what particular position were you actually appointed to in his office?
Ala ofiso kono je ye tombong ye mum palace le dila o wato la jeto.
I was still a magistrate, but you know, I mean, he had a program, I believe was the codification of customary law in the Gambia.
Otumo mu magistrate leti de hanimbide. Yo bari bitum fanang katukungulu sembendi na bankola ada kiti nyalula otumo wodo ko yim fanang anata mbulo bula wole kono. So
you were a magistrate, you were not sitting in your cases, or you were not presiding over cases. Instead, you were doing research work for the Chief Justice.
Yes. As Chief Justice, well,
Yes.
Do you know if this was the first of its kind in the judiciary, this particular role that he had carved out for magistrates?
Yes, yeah. I believe he was the first of his kind.
And what was the nature of your work at the time?
So he would give me research works, particularly, and he about customary law, because he wanted to codify customary laws in the Gambia.
Amunta kadu ko men dina ulem nyintiko Gambia banko na ada kiti silolu na ada kiti ndirinyalu puru nyin kamala nsi tukungulu londi wulu fanalu to puru itamandi nyalu to utumo ayodo ko le dinna.
How long did
and also
sorry, please go ahead. Sorry.
And also he started the Judicial Training Institute.
Andong atelefona nata ke moti meye yo ketindir bundalu karandiro nindiro damuta o bundal.
Did you say Judicial Training Institute?
Ko walam kidiri bundal nyina karandir bunda karango karabunda nying.
For the training of magistrates and judges.
Ha puruka ketindir lalu nin kitite lalu fanalu karandi.
What was your impression of Chief Justice Chauhan? Was he an independent Chief Justice? Or was he one that was amenable to interferences like some of the others we've heard here in the TRRC?
Muna wetela korosir lati Chief Chong Han la tamaniri nyaro fo mole mat me alon ko abelori nga fayende makala kul ka fayende bang fo ila mira loro mole mat me alon ko ke dabula la kul kono mesal ka kumol bula da kono la be men fera be men kela la tamaniri nyaro do ko.
I believe he is independent, but the environment, I mean, was not just right for him.
Latalako akala kolu tamandi nyamin aba fango bulule aka fango la kangole tamandi. Bari bitun kolu be a jenjengo la nyamin kolu be laring a fe nyamin dal a manke kuti me yalonko yati fango fasa bake.
And although we are not going to go into that now, you will tell us later that he actually was dismissed by the government or by the head of state.
Nyara do mande ibo fola nyele to nyala nyala ba oni inata na baile masakunda na baile mbelu njang.
Yeah.
So how long did you work in that role, and what did you do after that?
Silang yedo ko ke palaso nyinto memu chief justice la office nyinto andung inata na muneke kotanke.
So I was there about 3 to 4 months, I think. Then I was. Then I was again moved to Canifing. Then from Canifing, then from Canifing, then he wanted me to be at Banjul.
How long were you at Canifing?
I mean, it was about that time too. I believe for 4 or 5 months there.
And how long did you stay in Banjul Magistrate's Court?
Banjul kiti bunda ndi ngorolung yewo itarda jefana fo wati jelu.
I was transferred to Banjul, I believe it was in November 2014. Then until my services were terminated on May 4th verbally. Then officially, May 12th.
So you were working with the judiciary as a magistrate for how long in total?
About 2 years, 11 months.
Almost 3 years. Kindly tell us the circumstances surrounding your dismissal.
Silang ila bayre nyanying afanya bang kuol me along ko be murling sujuringa ila bayro nyi skunyala.
I believe my services were terminated because of the case I handled.
Latala ko yen mbaydo ko la dalilo menkan wole mo ngakiti dole ta nga tamandi nyama,
which was the case of State Matijao and the State versus State Matijao.
Mamira wolem kito te mayalon ko mansa ani State Matijao dunta nyola tumomen.
Give us some background into that case. Who was State Matijao and the context of that case?
Fondama odina case nyindo bang atata nyame ba no jwala mi State Matijao.
State Matijao was a university lecturer. I believe he still is.
State Matijao mo karandir la letinung ataka karandiro kenung university waleto.
they wanted to conduct our research on Gallup poll study.
What study? Sorry.
Gallup poll study. Gallup.
Amunda ite lafta kisi role kala nung wo ka même foten Gallup ton lafta kisi role kala wole kuoto nung.
Do you know what Gallup polls were?
Yalla na muna nyi Gallup polls ti.
I believe, it's they gather information and conduct polls on, for instance, rule of law, governance, democracy, and they gather data and look for people's opinion about issues.
Womukuleti me yalonko. Eka denne ye do ko ke ka kisi ke ka molu ngani yolu jube ka jube mola hammo ni la lafinna kolu mu muneti isi si ya jube fanan pour ka kolu kisi molu la lafinna dalu molu la jerolu isi molu fanalu kacandi ka molu nyininka ila hammolu mu muneti fanan kolu to mararo ana nyon kotengolu.
They were doing some research on governance issues around the country.
Amunta ebenun kisikisiro la ke kanung maralo Kenya la bango kanjang.
Yes.
Ha.
Okay, please go ahead.
And then?
So I believe they conducted some training, for researchers, people they could use to conduct the research.
Ngamira inata karandiro fanankele kamodo lu karandi me ya lonko wolle fanalu bina duko kela purka kisikisiro ke itolie ila duko nyintama ndinyado.
And prepared questionnaires.
Anim fanan e ka nyininkaro lu parendi nyanta nyininkar façon lu men kela purka wolu nyala tombong.
So they were on, it was during that time then the government and the NIA knew about their activities.
Ngamira otembolem man sakunda nata kolu jibe ining NIA ewlu la kolu lanya.
Because maybe they were suspicious about them collecting certain information or data. Which I believe.
Sobo keta nyina la ko ul fanal be kibarol wala ka kibarol le kensum wala ka kolu jibe dalete la sula kolu mentri pour ka kibarol ka funyoma.
And was that because some of the information they were collecting was surrounding the human rights situation of the country, rule of law, and these were considered, I believe, to be sensitive matters?
Oh, ko menti wala nyindi ko so bitala nyinda la ko nyunu be kisikisiro men ke ga wala nyindi ko ko dol be sujiri nding hadama di nyanto la ko la ani maral kendo andum kulle do mi alla te mi alon ko e ko ni ko be no masata bala akamane ba kale ba.
Yes, because the government at that time they don't maybe they were suspicious about things like that, human rights, good governance, people's opinion.
Ni ye momondi mbewdu ku façon la ikatara ete kasobite mari la do ko la le.
Please repeat your answer. Your response and the interpreter were overlapping, please. Thank you.
Yes, I believe at that time the government would be suspicious of any information that has to do with human rights, good governance, rule of law.
Ngalong tembo man sakunda ka sobile ko kundi na tilinta kolu la menubeko maralo banko kang hadama ya nyanto demokrasi ani o kufa songolu momondi yolu maitel katara sobiri ngo molu lale.
And do you know why that was the case?
Maybe they believe that that could shape the opinion of the people about the government.
Amunda wala nyinti don kam molu wobe molla ngani yole yitandila yengani ya façon men sota ni ye jeri façon men soto man sakunda nyi na karola.
Because it would expose those violations.
Kadwa binawo wanyaro le natila ikaw nyanta tinyalu menu ke ka kuruyalu men ke molla amunda wolbe wanyarle.
Which they did.
For instance, I believe, for instance, questions like if the president is a dictator, or are people free to express themselves, things like that. So, and the president wouldn't want that.
Yeah, ngalong ko wairi ka foko president mu sembela maral atemu abe sembela mararola. Kolu men betilina wala molla nyinin karol ni molla jero wo kufason la karola wo abukabu nyema.
And were those actual questions that Said Matijao and his group posed to members of the public, whether or not the president was a dictator?
For Said Matijao and Adronyoli told Ninkar Sifali Kaol Findin Jama Kambang, for Kamul Nininka, for Ya Jam, President Onimu Molde Mealongo, Sembela Maralo Akawalekaba, Ninkar Sifalo.
I cannot remember clearly the questions, but I believe questions like that were something like that were asked.
Hakilo tabe mutanola da sene mabari lata la koy wonyinin kari fasongolu wolle tarta kumolu kono wolle fango nyin ko be sabu.
Well, it is not a surprise that he was arrested then. All right, please proceed.
So, I mean, they were arrested and charged. And the case was assigned to me.
What were they charged with?
I mean, these charges were 4 counts. 4 counts. So I believe count 1 was
Are you reading from a particular document?
Yes, because I still have the ruling.
So you're reading from your ruling at the time?
Yes, yes.
Please proceed.
So the count 1, conspiracy to commit a misdemeanor.
Tumir follow muniti wala mnyinti amunta kuke anya kuke balikewdal.
Contrary to section 369 of the Criminal Procedure Code.
Mayalonko anina fanna kemesaba taworo nin kononto njaw manta nyola na kiti bundala.
Captain Voluntary Laws of the Gambia.
Mayalonko abe na Gambia la loi buko la bunda tanjaw kono.
And that's 2000 count 2.
Tumir fulanjango.
Failure to register a business contrary to section 44 of Single Windows Business Registration Act 2013.
Amunta ka safar bunda asafe balia safar bunda nyanda safe la bari ala safer balia me yalon ko fanang ninna wo bankola lua sarto lumanta nyola.
Country disobedience of statutory duty contrary to section 115 of the Criminal Procedure Code.
Sabanjang wala nyinti kabalang ila luko tamandila anyama me yalon ko fananim bunda keme bunda tang anin sabanjang nyi walita.
And count 4, disobedience of statutory duty contrary to section 155 of the Criminal Code.
Tumirnani njang wal fanamu nyinati ko mela luko tamandi anyama inyanta luko menkela imake anyama me yalon ko fananina ulwa bunda walita le.
Can you repeat count 1 for me without citing the law under which they were charged?
Akoye tumir bunda follow satae satara hani ima afanna nyimfo.
Count 1, conspiracy to commit a misdemeanor.
Wala mnyindi ka kambeng puruka kruya ko taman.
That's fine. I hope you'll make these your ruling available to us later on for the benefit of the commissioners.
Ngamira inata wo kulu lanya nyimbo kaito nying ibe fere kilale ka futandi manyatondo puru commissioner la jero kama.
Yes.
What happened after they were arraigned before your court?
Mune nata kebri nata ululondi nyati lungula kiti bundala.
they were arraigned, they didn't have lawyers. So I stood down the case for them to go and find lawyers. Then after I stood down the case, I was in my chambers. Then I received a call from the Master of the High Court.
Master member High Court ayenkili.
So he was talking to me about...
Who was the master at that time? Was it still Mr. Buba Jawa?
Akujumale master tinu utumo kitibunda nyina for Mr. Buba Jawa lem hani bibang.
Yes, it was Mr. Buba Jawa.
Ha ate Mr. Buba Jawa lem.
Thank you. And this is the late Buba Jawa who later became a judge, right?
Ngamera walem tala Buba Jawa ti menna take kitindirlati.
Yes.
Ha.
Okay, please proceed.
Akoitente.
So he was talking to me about bail.
Bitunga be nyine fo kanye nunko bail nyanta kila nyameng.
Man, so I don't understand because I suspected.
Ma fahamu. Katu anata sobo dundi nsondo mokono.
Because I don't know why would Master call to talk about bail.
Malo muna na master bedia mala hanfo kata bail kumofo.
So usually the master would not call and to talk to a magistrate about bail.
Kadu amanda likela puru master ye magistrate kumandi puru ye diamu bail kuala.
So it was then I sensed that the government, the state, the president had an interest in this matter.
Utumolom sobona tadun sondo mokono kamira ko. Uto nyimu kitileti wala nyimu kuleti me yalon ko president amunta nyatili nya sotole nyin kito la karola.
Can you tell us what specifically was said about bail by the master?
Pesa fono nye muna fam for the master men for bail la kuro nyin kisto.
He said that the CJ told him that the bail is at the discretion of the court.
Ate nyina foko utumo CJ nyina fayan ko bail ko wotuta larin kiti bunda nyin nebulu.
But that was something that you already knew. I mean, why would he tell you that?
Exactly, and I don't even know how did the Office of the Chief Justice knew about this case. I know it is the Office of the Chief Justice he sued, but I mean things like that.
Bangalong ko abngolon bari bitun silang nata mira anya keta nyadi la nfo Chief Justice la office obina bolanyin kulu kalama abelarin tenyami.
Did you see this as an indirect interference in your duties, or perhaps more direct?
Oh, ila mira lo ronyi mu kule de mealon ko dablo la mealon ko imasam be ifang kai fang de bari ya samba ni nyala mealon ko dablo la akonyin kono.
More direct, it was more direct because bail is, I mean, the court knows that the bail is usually at the discretion of the court, but
amunta ya tilindi wala nyama ya samba wala nyama kadu ya lonko bail ko katar larin kito la nyale bulu kiti bundala.
Did that put you under pressure at all?
Of course, yes, it did, because if you call a magistrate and you start to talk about bail, definitely, I mean, he would sense that maybe this is just not a normal case.
Keta wala nyama kadu ni ya magistrate kumandi me yalan ka be kiti tamandi kan ekana bail kumo kachawe woto abe nyinjela ko nyimu kuleti me yalon ko dabulole mnyinti te lafta jela nyado nyalama.
So what happened after that?
So it was then I sensed, I mean, the government has some interest in this matter.
Otumole nata nyimira ko utom no naman sakunda fa hammo be kuto le nyin kito kono.
So I had to advise myself.
Ngam fa ya mari.
And considering the fact that
andu ngani njube ko
2 of those, the three accused persons
nyimmo sabolu menu yetu miteng
were non-Gambian.
Nyil dodo manke Gambian kati.
So, I mean, you know, considering bail,
andu niya jube pour ka bel ko nyimira.
There are other factors to consider.
Adun kuko tanglu fanal bijele nyanta menu jibele si mira menula.
But I believe the two most important are the seriousness of the offense and if whether the accused persons are 5 weeks.
Fodun yamenu tu mitem fana molle men ya lonko ya konyi natot futandile.
And I experienced a situation that happened in the judiciary.
Andu nata je ku mukule te me ya lonko aketale na kitindir bunda la judiciary konoje.
A senior magistrate
kitindir la nyato ngasotonta.
I believe he heard a case
nalonko kule babulunun kitile belara bulokonunu
where the accused person escaped from the jurisdiction.
Andu moment tumita yemen tumi o kito nyinkono wo mari nata bori ay bankobula.
So the magistrate was being threatened.
Are you
in a position to tell us who this particular senior magistrate was?
I don't want to name names because maybe they might not like me naming their name.
Mala fitolu fola kadro asekeno ko mariolo fa sekela kutimensi dieye pruntengana murumbe tolu fola.
And we respect that, but can you provide the name afterwards to us in private?
Okay.
Thank you. Please proceed.
So I remember when I was Banjo, me and the principal magistrate.
Yo otumo ntasanumba nyunle
would usually pass by the canopy.
Andu jama magistrate ni ngakatambi ni kanifina.
To show solidarity to this magistrate because he was being threatened that he must produce the accused person or he would be dealt with.
Puruka itandi ni magistrate ofana nako mba mbeloringa fele ka fasa katu ye silandir kumo fayanko ni member ta teng ay fereke ay amari fintindi.
And so I experienced that. Then I thought to myself,
so
if these two of these non-Gambians, if they happen to, abscond, I could face similar fate. So I reminded them to think over my decisions. Before I deny or grant bail.
So what did you end up doing?
Then I decided that I was not going to deny them bail.
Yeah, otumole nata mera konko oto nyili manyane balila purke bail.
But the bail would be in such a condition that they would be reasonable, that they would stand trial, and if at the end of the trial there's no case, I let them go.
Yo bitu nata fuko bail façon men dilela abekela nyale manyame ya lonko ibe tentena le purka lo kito nyati limula isaje nin kito nyin keta hanfo anata bang utumole nsina feroji be nin ye fanso to nse bula.
And then I granted them bail.
Utumole munata bail dealer.
I mean, it was in the amount of, I believe, 5 million.
Andu ngakango mele kam bail sanko nyin dalasi million lulu.
And there was a lot of, talk about that.
Andu amunta diamolu wulindi nunduma.
What kind of talk was there?
I
mean, in social media and in other media.
Amunta na nying dunia be kibar bunda nyi kafame social media ning kibar bunda kotengolo wolle be kumakanu.
And probably they believe, he was excessive.
Amunta ite lata nyi na kongawo kodo yiriko men lawe kang asia batale.
Were you under some
but
pressure
I knew
to increase the amount of the bail?
Silang fay be de tole kono bang puru ka foy ko puru bail sartoni ye sankaya membe sankaya la sartoni puru ka lafa.
Or did you feel the conditions you set were reasonable under the circumstances?
Waranda fay ya jele ko bail sartoni ye menu lande sartal me alon ko isone ya da bakare.
Yeah, my reasoning was 2 of them were non-Gambians.
Ha ndela dalilo munyineti nunko mo fulo nyingol manke Gambia dingoluti.
And if all I wanted was them to stand trial. But if they escape, that was going to be another issue for me, and maybe I could be subject to some other things there. So I wanted them to stand trial, and I believe the amount, it may be excessive to some people, but to me, it was kind of reasonable.
But it looks like, apart from the normal considerations that you would sort of weigh, the normal principles under the law, you had other principles that you were also looking into, such as your safety, considering the experience you had with that senior magistrate.
Ebe ya pesa ya jube ebe ila saka sarrol men dila nu ni ya jube ya pesa han kabi hakilo fanan tu koma le puri fanan katanko ani misalo men dija wala ila nyaton ko kiti ila nyaton ko do me alon ko adunta akole ya ko kono me alon ko ani la nyibe mulundala ibe ol bera ko ni ibe jube kan ya pesa ya jube fond.
Exactly, because if I didn't receive that call from the master and cannot put pressure on me, I don't think I would have granted bail in such an amount.
Ha ngamira na atar numbang mang kumandiro sunun kabo mastabulu anim fanang amunta imang ida bula kunun ko nyin kono bitum ko lu bekta mala nu nyamin wala minti dalilo wala dalilo dinna han fonnata feroke ngata manditen nata nyim bel dila.
Thank you so much for admitting that, because definitely there seem to have been some other extraneous influences on that particular decision apart from the law, and I can understand the position that you were in.
Yeah.
Inu baraba kelo senen ngao faham le nga jela ko ufanna dol be e ufanna men vojanteng wato dingira dol be je katara jele me alon ko de to katara jele bari comme ite alandi nyame den ni inu baraba kelo senen dro and yala nyame fana.
But in fact, after you went all through that, these 2 foreigners did not in fact stand trial, did they?
But han kabi taro han kabi yo simfa dami beta teng. Nying lundam floor nying manana lo kitio nyate non fo ilodal.
But to my surprise, their lawyer came to me after it was a day or two.
Ila lawyer natante kang birin tilikiling wala tilifula tambita.
And told me that the two accused persons wanted to change their plea.
Wala mnyendiko nyimo fulo lumenu ye tumiteng amunta itelila ila lodula ila ftafalin na lela kangonying.
To change the plea from not guilty to guilty.
Wala mnyendi be falin na le kafoko lua mantol muta ebe sonnale silanko ha tonya e sontale ko lua yam mutale.
So when they were initially arraigned, they pleaded not guilty, and 2 days after they changed their plea from not guilty to guilty.
Amunda lum folo men na yena ti londe kitio nyati lon le men fo e men jabi kitio e wala nyindi go to man son tumiro le men le kan bar tilifula ko la law lum folo nyi na na sa murna ko silang e be la lodla nyi falinale ka fo ko sai ison ta tumiro nyi nal e men de kan oda.
Yes.
Ha.
What happened? Did you convict and sentence them accordingly?
Muna nata nake fo itafana nata na lua tamandi kande bang inata ne busa yaro la bang ko lua ya landi nyame.
So I was shocked because my mind was, I was just gonna let him stand trial, and if at the end of the trial they couldn't prove their case, I let them go. But they changed their plea.
Ah, ntala ftakito tamandela nunya wale nyama. Barbitum ko kunyin nata kenya menteng inata wulinang purke la kango falen ka foko follow to lota ko itelu mansong barbitu nyin labang la nata lo ka foko ha sai sontale.
So I couldn't do much because I was not really happy with it, but as a judge, as a judicial officer too, you have to be independent and
bitu wotumo biro ketalom man ku jama soto mbeben tamandile je wairi ntebudo kulaleti luani ntilimo do ko bundala fereti je man ku jama soto mbeben tamandile je.
But then I convicted them.
Udalilo le asabu nge kitindi nga luaye muta.
And find them.
Nga alamano le kang.
I believe it was 50,000 on each count.
Ngamira nimanyina momondin kungo kundalas wulital lulu italinyanta wale jola alamano
$15,000.
Wulitang ani lulu. Ka amunta tumiri nyanta wale jola.
Yeah, and then they paid and then they left the jurisdiction.
Inata song ye joro ke biri ye joro ke drong utumole botajang itata.
And again, just juxtaposing that against the bail amount, I guess, just highlighting against that the bail conditions were obviously very stringent, because in the end, you just find them something less than $100,000.
Munda nyala bo nyi hani kabiri ya jube inata na alamano mel lekang ani ye bel roben dila yemen sang bel mel dila nu yo kodo mel lande je ko membe momo be bel la membe sankara be men jola adoyata wotila me ye natani alamano wota menna adoyata la be ani bel nyinna ido adoyata wala e bawe dumal.
Yes, yeah.
Ha.
All right, thank you very much. So what happened to Seth Matijau?
Silang Seth Matijau dum muna natana ke atela.
So Seth maintained his plea of not guilty.
But munta Seth ate mwole mnyindiko lua manate muta.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
He said he's not guilty.
Akate akaulua mate muta amansong.
And what
So
happened?
it went on trial.
So kwenye nata dunkito kono utumole.
Who was representing the accused persons?
Yintumi monyi jumala belo ngate loyala.
There is, at first, I believe it was Ida Drame who was representing them, cancelled Ida Drame.
Ngamira Ida Drame. Wale mu kitindirlati mellota etolienu wotembo.
Then they changed, cancelled, and it was Lami camera for Seth Matijau.
Bitungo tumo set matija o menata lo wole keta lamin kamarati.
What about the state?
Bankola karola du nyumala beloni banko e.
The state, the prosecutor was Abdurrahman Ba at that time.
Utembo menlo taman sakunda e utembo wolem Abdurrahman Ba.
And he was from
But
and Abura Mansala Kitri Bunda
yes.
Attorney General's chambers,
yes.
rather.
Yes, but later on, I think he also withdrew, and it was Bakar Drame. At the end of it.
Mr. Conteh, I would just like to just pause for a moment whilst I confer with Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, it's time for the break, but we have about 30 minutes or so to go. If you would prefer us to continue and finish with him and then go on a break, or to take a break and then come back.
Well, considering that it's been up very early in the morning, can you shorten 30 minutes to 15 minutes and we finish up with him? If we can do that, that would be great, rather than
I will try. I'm not too sure if I can make such a promise, but I will try to shorten it.
Please proceed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Conteh?
Sedo?
Yes, Council.
I'm sure you've heard what the chairman has said, so take that into consideration as we proceed.
Okay.
All right, so just summarize the case for us so that we can get somewhere. What happened to Said Mati eventually in the trial?
So the prosecution, they call their witnesses and then close their case.
Then
his lawyer, LS Camara, apply for notice to answer.
Please tell us what that means, especially for the benefit of our lay people.
Akataba yo fatang fansinya bang purun na mol la moir la melan ko mang faham o koto muneli wala ala lawyer dundiro kula safer la ka me no case to answer wala mang kuma soto abe men dankula menna kitiyor.
So no case, and it simply means when the prosecution closes their case.
No case wala mnyindiko between kitin ribunda nying wala nyante la kito kumfala woldo kat wala mnyindiko etumi monying woto kitir ma kuta caring men nyanta lala te kanga munta kitita te kunto.
If there's not evidence that the court can convict,
ni sede man soto sede koyo men sa itandiko nyimtumi mo nyanta mutala nyine kampurka sorong.
That's, I mean, that would allow the defense to open their defense and contradict the evidence.
Ibajala utumo le nioketa bitum menu belorin kitindirla menu belorin tumi moye utumo le ngol fanal bina ila kudiamo wulindi la pour ka tumi moñi na kolu fasa ka itande ko nying amunta be tembo men to ten ate man loi la sembetelari nga kanga man kuke.
So the prosecution basically, sorry, go ahead.
Then it would mean there's no prima facie case, like no strong evidence against the accused person.
But new sede a mankita woto wala nyintiko be lola nyine kanko sede bambandi man soton no nyintumi mola koluto.
So therefore, the prosecution did not meet the minimum threshold of evidence they were supposed to produce.
Amunta koto munyine de wala mnyindiko kitindirla me yalon ko wolle nyin tumi mo nyin na de kitidla to ka tumi ko tumi rol nyin imam kuma kam bambandi ngol soto me yalon ko wala fo nyin tumi mo nyin memba sabula furluwa sa muta.
Yeah, that would warrant the defense to enter their defense.
Ha, wala mkuti memba sabula, puru menu belori tumi monyi ye, ulufanarisi wuli, ye la kumo wulindi, puru italinyanta nyimari tankandila nyami.
So based on that no case submission, I mean, what ruling did you make?
Kasujini wala kapiring tumi monyi na lawyer nyinga yo kumaka onyi dundi wala no case submission. Iti na kuonyi mkundunyadi le.
So if there's no case, I mean, you could acquit and discharge.
Wala mnyintiko ni bitung kiti mansoto menyanta kela, puru kakula nyinka. Woto kito nyi utumu wale ngabai.
So you agreed with the submission that was made by the defense counsel and you acquitted and discharged them because the prosecution basically did not produce enough evidence to warrant a defense to those charges.
Amunda tumi monyi na lawyer nyinga safero men dundi kitio nyinkono ina taifara nata na so kumaka onyine ka wala mnyintiko tumi monyi menu ya nati menu ya nati kitio nyati no memu bankola karola multi imam kumaka nsaha yare ngodi kitio nyati no memba sabula ko kungo sa muta no ko to nyato nyanyi tumi monyi ya tumi menna asabati ta kanne ifara nata na sabati wala yabula iko luwa mamuta no kitio fana yabula le.
Yes.
Ha.
So Said Matija was a free man.
Said Matija narna ke mori mialan ko aba fambulu.
Yeah, he was a free man. Yeah.
Ha, bitu.
And he's still a free man.
Nata fansoto yabula, kito yabula.
And according to your statement, all hell broke loose from that point.
Amunda ila kuma kansa fero nyindo yeme itani je wala mindu ko nyimbe nata na katinya.
I am paraphrasing.
Yes.
Okay, can you tell us what happened after you gave that verdict?
Silang faisa fono nye muna nata na ke brite ko nyum kuntu wanyama.
Considering the political nature of the case, you know, and the fact that the state had an interest in it.
Andung kome hani ya jube fanang Said Matija la law kitio nying mansakunda ye sulo soro nying sulo soro andung politiko alhalo nying fana belari nu nyameng muna nata na.
So I believe I delivered the ruling on Wednesday, April 29th.
Na meranga kolu ke wolungole April karotili muanin kononto kakito kundu.
And after that, I was expecting something was going to happen.
Biro batala ndefama be sobirinko kube kelale.
Why were you expecting that something would happen?
Muna ya sabu defama sobira ko kube kelale.
Because it was obvious that the state, the government, the executive had an interest in the matter.
Kadwotumo ndebe sobirinko mansakunda nying kata na nyatonko banko kundonko ulube kusotole laftamenta mandila kito nyinto.
But despite your fears, you still went ahead and did the right thing.
Ari hani kabi onyawo nyanyara di nyama ila silo ko nyinko na nyawo nyaba ina na kuke me alon ko anyanta wala nyama.
Yes. I don't think, Said Mati deserves that. He doesn't deserve to be destroyed like that. So, because needs to protect him.
Ma mira kwa abekela kuleti menyanta purka Said Mati la kulu tinyanyi wonya bitu dalilo le ya sabu mfana nga tamandi wonyama purinyi nkamala kakanta katanka ndio mantoroma.
Even at the risk of reprisals to yourself.
Anin kabi hani onyawo nyanyara nyama masilango be ka nyawo nya iya kuntu wonyama.
Yes, I knew maybe the worst I would get is to be fired. So I prefer to be fired than destroy a young man.
Ha, ndafana ngajele ko. Ninga tamandi wonya. Ko si kuja wo membe kelantela dron wole yembaidu kuola. Bari ndafana wole fisi atanye yembaidu kuola wole fisi atanye. Nga funding kedo jube nga tinya.
That was quite commendable. Seeing as you were also a young man with a future ahead of you, which you were willing to sacrifice for the rights of others.
Tenturubala ikang hani ya jube ete fana molde me alon ko funding ke mera wala muiti bar hani kabi wonya ya duno nyimbeta ya woku beje ya taki ya duno nyinta.
Exactly, because he should be protected.
Ha, ayanta kala wala nyama, mnyanta kantalale, ayanta kanto sotonale.
So what happened after that?
So on Monday, I went to work. I was in court.
mbekiti bundala.
Then my orderly came and told me that the principal magistrates wanted to see me urgently. Then I went to see him.
Who was he?
He's Mamadou SM Jallo. He is now a High Court judge.
Mamadou SM Jallo, saying High Court kiti ndirilale mwati, wale muna kiti sandonga bunda nyinti.
Please proceed.
And then?
He's told me that the Chief Justice sent an urgent message.
Ayina fanyanko Chief Justice ye kibar kandile kinang.
That I should go home immediately.
Konte nga saying wonoto nga sayi.
Because he received an order that from the president, that's Yahya Jammeh.
Kato atafana yo kango soto mole bulume yalonko wole mbanko president Yahya Jammeh.
That I should be dismissed.
Mr. Conteh, before we move on, did Yahya Jammeh appoint you?
Mr. Conteh, bimu sedo de janni betente na fo Yahya Jammeh atele to tombomang do ko nyinto.
No, Yahya Jammeh didn't appoint me.
Anide Yahya Jammeh mandeta do kola.
So how come he was dismissing you?
Do saying abe keno na nyadi la tebe bayla.
That was the order given to the Chief Justice.
Chief Justice.
Okay, very well. I believe somebody did not advise him that he did not have the authority to do so. Who was the Attorney General at the time?
It was Mama Fatima Singate.
Mama Fatima Singate.
Okay, please go ahead.
Then that I felt threatened. I packed my bag without telling anyone anything. I boarded a taxi and went home. I had to change my location. So I was there. It was on the May 4th, then till on the 12th May.
Yeah, but tumo kabrim mekaro till 94 mekaro till turning floor.
Okay, I have to, because I believe the Chief Justice. He saved me.
Chief Justice
and I'm so grateful for that. And he refused to give me my letter.
Why do you believe he saved you?
Chief Justice
because the moment he knew about it, he sent a message immediately.
And initially you told us that the worst that could have happened to you was that you would be dismissed, and you were not really scared of that.
Yes.
However, when you got a message from the Chief Justice saying that Yahya Jammeh was going to dismiss you, or he had an order for Yahya Jammeh for your dismissal from Yahya Jammeh, things changed.
Chief Justice
you were now afraid not only of being dismissed, but for your own personal safety. Can you tell us why?
Yes, because the order was from Yahya Jammeh, and Yahya Jammeh, I've learned that if he's angry with you, anything could happen to you. So.
Bituo de kokundi sikeno ite marilal.
When Yaya Jammeh is angry with you, anything can happen to you.
Yaya Jammeh kam fata mo
Yeah.
mor ninga ko ku sikera ni keno elala.
Things like what?
Membe ko nyum.
You could be arrested. You could be, killed. You could be tortured. You could be imprisoned.
And that is why you went into hiding.
Amunda wale asabu itara mabo.
Because you were genuinely scared
Yeah.
for your life.
Kadu isila da ila fangola tangola ila baluo.
Yeah.
So what happened after that?
Mune na ke okola.
So because the Chief Justice refused to give me my termination letter.
Chief Justice ni balanta la pur kanna letter by later on indina.
So it was May 12th, I learned that he too was fired.
Mekaro tiltanim fulole nata nyim fanam fahamuko yate fanam baile.
And that was the day my termination letter was written. 12 May 12.
Do you know the reasons behind the dismissal of the Chief Justice?
Ya na dalilo membe dalil ku membe alon ko be maboring waranto membe fuduring dalilo me asabu Chief Justice ni ya bay.
I mean, it might be my case. It might be. I've heard too. Like it was about the case of Tamba, but at that time I was not really. I couldn't say specifically that was the reason, but I knew for a fact that he refused to give me my termination letter.
Asa keno kudol bijele ko kol men be ko lantombon tambañol la ko barbitum même ko tinata sobe melna wala nyinti ronga manna son pour kantela bayri letter o dintela.
And even though you didn't know the specific circumstances surrounding his dismissal, you knew that it had to do with a case that he was presiding on, something that had to do with his independence as a judge.
Ani ngabi onya kilo onya randi nyama iko imalo dalilo me asabu ya bay membe asabu ya bay bari iso bida nyinne ko dalilo me asabu ya bay wala nyindi ko sujiri ndin case le me alon ko ayata aya kiti andum ayo ke kula me nyala me alon ko kulwa landi wala nyama ko ala do ko nyinya nakena do ku nyalti me alon ko betar le lorin afaye.
Yes, I believe he was dismissed because of as a result of interference. And because of our case, a particular case.
Ngalo ya bay dalilo men kan wala nyinti ko dablo keta kiti mento me ya lon ko lebe keri no tembo.
And I believe this point is buttressed after he was dismissed, because the person that they brought to replace him was the exact opposite of what he was, according to the evidence which we have received. And who was that person?
Yes, that person was Emmanuel Fagbele. I believe.
Omari me ya nati atela palaso to ka fole Emmanuel Fagbele.
I believe the very day Fagbele took over.
Lata la ko lummem fango Fagbele ko luta.
That was the very day my termination letter was written.
Wolum killing on a farm yentela bayri letter o safe.
And of
so
course,
sorry,
I was just going to say, and of course he came to purge the judiciary of everybody who was an independent judge or magistrate.
Amunta silang otumo lem yenyin silota purka molu bay mo mondi ndinkitindir la lo meya lonko amari la kito alota fayena tarta fambulu purka tonya tamandi.
If you don't agree, Mr. Conteh, by all means say so, please.
Niman som fana Mr. Conteh hanim be afudro.
I agree totally.
Nsontale fan kendake.
I mean, because maybe he might have started with me. So, and I've learned, many magistrates and judges were later on dismissed.
Wala, bitu wala na katu ndela bayri later waira amadina anu for call nata keteng lata la ko aketa wole nyama.
Please repeat the last part of your answer. I did not get that.
Akoy la jabiro labango ama oto soto sayje kan.
Yeah, because after my case, a lot of other magistrates and judges were dismissed.
Ha, ntala ko boringala. Magistrate ni jojo lu jamal le soton tay labanta menu fanalu bayla.
Can you give just some examples of such magistrates and judges and why they were dismissed? Did it have anything to do with their role?
For esis misali ngolo dinol nale wo magistrate ni o jojolu fodum kule men tata dendingi la kitolu te nyala bang.
Magistrate Ibrahim Jete, I believe he is now a judge.
Justice Magistrate Ibrahim Jaite sa in Jojo le moate kitindir lalemu.
Was he dismissed because of a decision that he made?
Oh ya bay dalilo men kan wala nyindi ko ay kan wala tabang.
Yes, yes.
Ah.
Who else?
Aninjuma.
And I believe Magistrate Omar Jaba was also dismissed.
Andulata ko Justice Magistrate Omar Jalo fanang.
Omar Jaba.
Omar Jaba fana ya bay wonyale.
And was that because of a decision that he had made during the course of his duties?
Amunda da fana ya bay dalilo men kan wala nyindi ko la du ko nyi wato nyi kono ay kiti la kundu ni nyala me alon ko amandi ay tole.
Yes.
Ah.
Do you remember Patrick Gomez, who testified here a couple of days ago? Do you remember the circumstances surrounding his dismissal?
Mola me alon ko ay sedan do DJ ka me Patrick Gomez tildan dam ko man don fa yalo na dalilo men sababu da fana na bayro la bang.
Yeah, I knew Patrick, but at that time I was not at the judiciary. But I've heard that he also had issues with Fagbel.
Ha, banga Patrick lonne, bari bitunga tala ko be kala tumo men na wayata mantara judiciary kiti bunda nyinna. Bari nata nyin lonko fanan ate fanan nim Fagben le ko le du nyotema.
Do you know whether he was dismissed because of his decision as a magistrate?
Yala na ban fo ya da fana bay dalilo men kam wala nyindi ko ay kango men tamande wato men na munu kiti ndir lati ba.
I believe so, yeah.
Do you have any other examples of people who were dismissed because they did the right thing, made a decision during the course of their judicial functions?
Misalo do soro ba mo do kotangol soro ba men ya lon ko ila mira lo yol fana bay kula me ya lon ko be sujiri ni ila do ko la menke wato men munu kiti ndir lal kiti telal.
Jete, Omar Jabam, Patrick, Chief Justice Chauhan, and I later on these two judges of the Supreme Court, Justice Jane and Justice Sok, were also removed.
Justice Jane look at Justice Sok, Namera or Dalila Kilmer Fanaya Asabu Khan for Nata Fanalube Bondi.
And Magistrate Jacqueline Nixon Hakim too.
And Magistrate Hakim Yulbe Bondi Onyalema.
Okay, and where was Magistrate Hakim presiding over, in which court?
Magistrate Hakim, atabe kiti bunda bunjumal tonu adara kiti okela kanda mendon.
She was at Banjul.
Namera utuma be Banjul lenu.
Do you know whether she was dismissed or she resigned?
Yala na banfo ya baile
judicial interference.
Yala na banfo ya baile banfo ata fangole fonyo banka suka suji ni nkula me alongo dabulo le menka kala kiti nya tamandiri nyala.
I believed, me and her, we had dismissed on the same day. Like our official letter.
Internate ben na kolu muliata nyakilu nyalema men denta letoro la me yalonko asafeta.
Thank you very much for that. You wanted to also give another example of interference. Coming from another source apart from the office of the Chief Justice. Sorry, not the office of the Chief Justice, but the executive. Which other source?
Yes. I believe, and I had information that the Attorney General at that time, Mama Fatima Singate, influenced the decision to get me dismissed.
Nalatala alunata nyinkibaro fanan sotonko Mama Fatima Singate atelo moti men ya lonko adabulo ke ko nyinto pour ka jako e furu isente bay.
Can you tell us how she did this or what your belief is?
First,
I mean, she was the Attorney General.
Follow Attorney General.
Her role was to advise the government, the president.
Andung jama atelemu ya marlati mansakunda la karola katafo president. So
by law, I don't think the president would dismiss a magistrate or judge without the knowledge of Attorney General.
Mutolata la ko president jojo wala magistrate baila satara ate mambo akalama.
Do you believe that the president would have listened to her if she had given him advice that he didn't want to hear?
For ila mira loroko ning atra ya maro di president wala for president be kala multi me alon ko abe sonna la ya maro la banga men dia la ban fata kala.
Yes, because I'll give you an instance, like the case of Jacqueline's case.
Ha, abasa kewo nyale, mbe misali do fanandile la membe ko Jacqueline la case.
I believe she presided over one of the political cases.
Mlata la ko asita political kito le fanandolu kono kilinkunna.
She freed the accused persons.
Wo menu ye menu tumi okuo kono anatawolu bula ke frita itata.
But she was not dismissed immediately.
But imata bayi wo noto de.
And at that point, who was the Attorney General when she ruled or made a decision on those cases?
Attorney Jacqueline biling abe in kango kundula nunga taman lanu yimola kuoto yim political mola kuoto jumala munu Attorney General di minister di.
I believe the Attorney General was Justice Mahoney.
Attorney General Justice Mahoney leti otumo.
And why do you believe she was not dismissed at that time when Justice Mahoney was the acting AG?
Na sabi la mira loro imaba yo wato la tumala men Justice Mahoney la mun Attorney General me alonga be karfaring ala tela manu wato.
I believe that was his position, acting Attorney General.
Jikira ngunde abe karfaring ala manu kafme acting.
Yes, to me that proves that if the Attorney General does not influence, the president would have little, room or even the courage to, fire a magistrate. So the Attorney General.
Natara atemang akonyin fasanu. Woto ngani mira kutumandolu president fongo. Ate kidila purkalo ka foko ye inyim bayro ke onyama.
And what about Justice Mahoney made you believe that he did not influence the president in that manner?
Munda Justice Mahoney mune landi nyina ko atemang song o kawnyina ka o tamandi o anyama.
Apart from the fact that she wasn't dismissed, obviously.
Ninga boda
at that time.
Ninga boda nyina ko ilalara mena ko imabai wo watola.
I believe, Justice Mahoney is an independent-minded person, and so.
Justice Mahoney mumoleti meya fansoto ondung aka lo afang la kangole kang.
So even I don't believe he would try to influence or make the president to do that.
Malala te bela fela purka nyin kangodi wala purka. President
And why do you think that Mama Fatima Singate, on the other hand, would do something like that?
Mama Fatima Singate nya karadola niya jube atabo kulan le wole nyama.
If you look at the tenor of Mama Fatima Singate,
ne Mama Fatima Singate la wucheo jibe wucheo menga be mararola odinkirato.
So many judges, so many magistrates and judges were removed.
Judge Jama and magistrate Jama in Kitindrilalu Jama le sotonte kono menu bondi.
I believe the former Chief Justice Mabel Ajima was removed when Mama Singate was the Attorney General.
Lata lako Ajiman, Chief Justice near ya bondi wato meng ate Mama Fatima Singate at long Attorney General Tiotumo.
Justice Chauhan too was removed when Mama Singata was the Attorney General.
Justice Chauhan fanan ya bai wato men wayata ate Mama Fatima Singata lom Attorney General.
Justice Raymond Sok and Justice Jana were both removed when Mama Fatima Singata was the Attorney General.
Justice Sok ani Justice Franja ma afo ulufanali yebe bai wati kilingule wato men Mama Fatima Singata bije.
We're losing you a little bit, Mr. Conteh. Just speak more clearly and audibly.
Justice Jana and Justice Sok, two justices of the Supreme Court, were removed when Mama Fatima Singata was the Attorney General.
Justice Sok and Justice Jane, Supreme Court Judge Fuller. Yol fanal bayo ateo wato la wato me Mama Fatima Singata be Attorney General yala.
And you don't believe that it was a coincidence that it was during her tenure that these particular people were removed?
Exactly.
Asikeko ko le benta dorong wato men ye nyilu bondi je wonatela wato benta.
All this cannot be coincidence. Looking into order, the tenure of other Attorney Generals, for instance, Justice Mahoney. I'm not aware of any single dismissal during his tenure.
Justice Mahoney la wuce kono. Mambo akala mahani sinya killing kafo wodoku lalu killing by kitindir lalu. Bari ni ajibe. Nyimbete keno la kafo ko ibentale. Hani katu atela wuce waralo atela maralo wuce kono lem. Ni kitindir lalu mo jama soton tay menu bondi.
And Justice Fagbenle, do you know where he was before he became Chief Justice? Do you know what he was doing?
Justice Fagbenle, yala na benu mindola janni bagira Chief Justice.
Justice Fagbele, he was at the Court of Appeal.
Justice Fagbenle abenun kitisa inkambunda lanum.
And before that?
Then,
No.
I believe he worked as a prosecutor before he was appointed a judge.
He was the DPP, the Director of Public Prosecution.
Do
you know whether he was during the time that Mama Fatima Singata was the Attorney General at the Ministry of Justice?
Yala na fo waro mena Mama Fatima Singata munu minister member ni lual ni kitindiri kunyala fo abe atenying DPA Fagbele abenu do kola jeda ba.
I mean, you mean whether Fagbele worked with Mama Singata or?
Yes, at the Attorney General's chambers. Because both of them were in that department.
Yes. Yeah.
Are you able to draw a link between those two events? Considering the fact that Justice Fagbenle was at the ministry, was at the office of the Chief Justice in the judiciary at the same time when Mama Fatima Singate was the Attorney General.
And Chief Justice la office onyinto waro mena Mama Fatima Singate benu minister ya la memara dual ni kitindri kunyala.
And their history at the Attorney General's chambers.
And tariko la miano ko wolle keta ministry me marle dual ni kitindri kunyala ko mentambira je.
Yes, and I personally knew that when Fagbele was acting Chief Justice, Mama Singate would come to his office, at the office of the Chief Justice, and they would meet inside. I knew that.
Fagbele be palace nyaton kaya Chief Justice. Mama Fatima Singate kata ala office otole kata futa maje.
So there was a relationship.
I witnessed that.
Yeah. And where did you get this information from?
I believe the day Chief Justice, was it the day or the following day when Chief Justice Mabel Ajiman was removed?
And bring Justice Ajiman Bondi.
And at that time, Fagbele was the acting.
Mama
Singate came to his office. I was there because I went there to see the Chief Justice. So the day I saw them, my own eyes, they were in his office.
Chief Justice
you know
yes, so
under what circumstances you saw them fraternizing with each other?
Yala na bang yetara alhala nyadi la kono member sabula yetara alhala nyadi la kono bungonyi kono je brief rata je office kono.
Well, I believe they had some relationship because it was cordial, and I don't think it would be proper for the Attorney General to just it depends too, but taking into account the circumstances.
It wasn't an official function. That's what you want to say. It wasn't an official function.
Yeah.
They were just together on a very in an informal setting.
Amunta ngeje nyokanne dorong o dalilo le ya sabu barbitum nyale fangaye mo fulolu je nyokan andu ngalon ko e ka nyomoyle bitum ila taranyo ila doko sambanya obeda mangletem.
Yes, it was informal. It was informal.
Ila nyoje amanke ko nyinti ko doko le ya kaning wala dalila koyole bala luwa ya kaning.
Thank you very much for that.
Numbara ba kela o senandiroto.
Also, you've told us that there were some letters that came from or emanated from the executive.
Yandu ya fo mole fana njanko letaro dolbe je miano ko bota executive wala miya jamena la bala mol de be kataringala.
To be more specific, the office of the president.
Ka sabatin ka tiling ko nyimfanga wala president office or letaro men boraje.
To the judiciary or to the courts. Can you tell us more about that?
Letaro men yalan ko ki safena ka president office or ki kiti bundaro.
Yeah, at that time I witnessed about 2 occasions.
Ha, utembo ndefo nata okuo sedea fosi nyafula fang.
The letters would come from the office of the president.
Letter will come on president la office auto.
To the judiciary, to the office of the Chief Justice.
Letter will kana kitindir bunda la kata Chief Justice la office auto.
And to the courts.
Kata kitindir dinkiraluto.
I mean, directing that setting cases, and they will list the name of the cases.
Kitu façon lu men yalon ko etel hammo wala nyabelori menu kan ikaw kitu lu fon lu be safele
should be disposed of within a certain period of time, or else, I mean, languages like that.
Ka fo nyin kiti kari iba kala tenne nyin wuce kari kono nionte nyin ninyi ne be kala wo kuma kam façon lu.
Yeah, I personally saw those letters.
Ndefongo kuma yo letterol do lu jele.
And the principal magistrate at that time.
Mutumo magistrate yala utembo.
Who is the current Attorney General? He would call a meeting.
Mutumo member chief magistrate yala utuma se bengo komandi.
Was that Dauda Jallo? He was the principal magistrate at the time, the Attorney General, the present Attorney General now.
Yes.
Principal magistrate, a telephone Attorney General to sign.
Yeah, I mean, so he would call a meeting for us to discuss.
Asibengo komandi puruka si kanyin kolu diam.
And although you didn't mention him, but I believe he was dismissed at some point as well because of a decision that he made during the course of his duties as a magistrate.
Imare to fono na mola me alon ko ye bay do sujita men wala nyindi ko ye kanwala ta ila do ko nyin kono bara dafa nan jigita ko ya dafa nan bay dalilo men kam wala nyindi ko ay kanwala ta ala kitiyo nyi wicho nyi kono kitiyo kundu ni nyaado la me alon ko amandia e tole ya bay wala la.
Yes, he was also dismissed because of a case, I mean, decision he made. And I believe the police or the NIA, they came to the office.
ngalon ko lata ko police wala NIA wol fonglu nata le fo kana futa officer to je.
And they asked him to surrender his passport.
Ina ta fay jelo ko ala passport o aya dila.
Then the Chief Justice, when the Chief Justice knew about this,
Bring Chief Justice Bota Okalama.
Who was that?
he protested. He said that
Chief
it was Justice Chohan.
Utumo Justice Johan Lemu Brabota Kalama ala balambaya itandi.
He protested that he was not going to court unless they let him.
Kamfata ala balambaya itandi katita kito bulala hanfode funi ye bulobo kang.
So he stood up for your worship, Dawda Jallow, at the time.
Amunda lota your worship Dawda Jallow fe o watola.
I believe he did, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Can you just tell us briefly what impact your dismissal from the judiciary, as well as all the experience you've had on the intimidation, harassment, and interferences with magistrate and judges?
Fesa fono nyin kol be narna mon kole akul el zabu e bayila bayro nyin aning e dabulo men ka gela kidio nyin tamandir nyaaro aning e ka kuma kan men fo e kidio nyin wijo nyin konay mun ka kole akul el zabu ma.
And what impact has this had on you?
Jojol ni magistrate ol menu be ye bay anu ayam kole akul el zabu ma.
Well, I mean, apart from the psychologically, maybe it's kind of stressful.
Mirala, Solomola Carola, Akake Marie de quality.
And also career-wise too, it affects your career.
Ila do ko yin fanan tamandola Carola, Akake nasidality.
And so for me to, I mean, when I was dismissed, because I was offered scholarship by Jame.
Ndefanandum bring ye mbaya ketawole nyama badum ya Jame for scholarship dintelale.
But I mean that scholarship was revoked.
But it was scholarship in ato baile.
So, but I was able to find out.
Mr. Conteh, I know this is an obvious question. He was not your kind of magistrate.
I believe. Yeah.
His kind of magistrate, rather.
Yeah, because I thought he said that maybe, oh, no, you don't deserve this. So.
You were not obeying his orders or directives.
Exactly.
Please proceed.
And then?
So fortunately, I was able to find my way out of the country. Then because I was about to come, because of the scholarship, I should be coming to University of Oklahoma for my master's program.
Because watembo nyanta silo sutonu katana masters ke University of Oklahoma pur kata karamalaji.
Yeah, so I was able to have my way through the support of my family. Yeah, and my family, they supported me. I went to school. Yeah.
And I hope that your experience has not put you off judicial office for the rest of your life, and that maybe you'll come back home one day and serve.
Ngamera bitungu kolu wejeri kolengolu ta kendila pro ye kodi wo do kola menketa lo abunda do kola mbejikirin ko lumbe sila ibe murula nanne yana tenteng do kola.
Oh well, maybe, probably, but for me now, because what I went through was really traumatic.
Asike asinata manya wonya barbitum fanang kudol fanal bilarin.
Sorry about that, Mr.
But for now, I think I want to pursue my options here.
It's unfortunate that we've lost such a noble judicial officer.
Aketa ku keja wote mfuata mo kendo la memu kitindirila kendo tikoite.
And I have come to the end of
Yes, thank you.
I have come to the end of your testimony now. I will hand you over to the chairman for any questions that they may have to ask.
Mfutatela sede andiro bandula tole sila mbela ko chikala ngadi siranti ba fangola chairman atafangwa ning komisona dolu mume nyininka soto ise nyininka.
You will also be given an opportunity, if the chairman so wishes, for any final remarks you may have.
Andu be silo dile fananale nim chairman ye asilo nim chairman sonta puru isila kacha kumfa kumakangulula ite fanan lafta menu banke la jang.
Thank you so much. I'm so grateful for the opportunity given to me to be heard.
Inumbara bake akatanye sewoti animbunya puru kanyi silo yele nte fanan puru ngana sede yaro la jang.
Thank you, Council, and thank you, Mr. Conteh, for your testimony.
Inumbara Council, inumbara Mr. Conteh la sede yandiroka.
You've been up for several hours and so early in the state of Washington.
E wulta juna montro wati jamai benyala e dinkira nyinto ebe damentu teng tundo me kafaje Washington.
Commissioners, if you have any questions, please indicate.
Ning komisionalu fanalu ning mwe nyininkar soto puru ise nyininka.
Not if you have any concluding remarks, Mr. Conteh, please proceed to make them now.
Saying ifana woto wairi komisioner man soto membe nyininkala ifana nakumo kumfaran kachalu sila ngasilo di la ifana siolufo.
Well, thank you, Chairman Sise.
Inumbara bake Chairman Sise.
As I've said,
kunga fonu nyamin.
It's been an honor.
Ninketanye bunyati.
And I'm grateful for TRC give me the opportunity to be heard. You've been doing a tremendous job. It's amazing. So, for me, I'm excited about this whole thing. And it's good for people and the citizens to know. What happened? And how, we can, grow as a nation.
Aning, insik mune keno, puru nga kurukuru kake bankuti konfang laftala nyaming.
For better.
Me yalonko asike kaira aning yirwa bati bankoe.
Because, injustice is threatened justice everywhere.
Katu tilimbalia, amut tilingu nintonya tinya leti dunia karawo karala.
For any society to grow,
puru jama sila wo jama ye kurukuru ye meng anyama.
Justice and fairness and equality and respect for the rights of the people is sacrosanct.
Tilingu tonya ka molu kanyandi ka kuolu sahayandi wo mukuleti menkuma yata bake jama fanna wo fannala.
So you've been doing a great job.
Andung aleyedo ku kende balake albe menke kanteng fang hanimbi.
And I would appeal for it to continue and
mbe wasila prunyindoku kendo ay tenteng.
And we look forward to the recommendations.
Bitumbe jikiring hammo fanam bakang sining mu yamar fason lena bena bola nyin kokono.
and certainly the implementation of the recommendations.
Anim fanang jikoning hammo be lori nyin kanko ya maro lu menu be dila pour wol sike kuti ibe menu londi la ke tamandi keke.
I mean, because I didn't lose a family member or a close family member. I mean, but there are people who lost their family members.
But mo jamal le bi jam menu ya lonko ibadi ngulu ifote ibadi ngulu la.
So as a society, I think, I mean, we should be concerned.
Moto wairi hadama ya lemu hadama dim mendelbem hadama dim letim be nyokang uta nyanta kala nye de undaleti.
I'm not the type of people who would, I mean, say, oh, if I'm not concerned, I'm not affected, then I'm not concerned.
Ndemanke moti me ya lonko nsafu ko wairi kumanke la kumanke na mola uto amanke nye de unkuti. Nte manke umo fasonti.
So we should all be, once anyone's keeper.
Mfanalu nyanta kela nyoye nyo kanta la leti kanyo komo kanta.
We make so that, I mean, the report or the recommendations are implemented.
Nsaja fana nyabe sio nyama ya marolu nin kangolu menu be bola jang isi wolu londi ya tama wolu la kake kuti me ya lonko asike.
I mean, that is my expectation.
Ndede wole munaji koti.
And I hope it would.
Andu mbejikirin ko fo asekewo nya fanang.
I thank everybody.
Ngamobe numbara.
The commissioners, the members, lead counsel, Mr. Fall.
Commissionalu, menu bebe du kola jang, ani lead counsel Mr. Fall.
All the counsel and the counsel that led me, Council Sagar.
Ani council meya lonko wole tambita nyato biten council Sagar.
I'm grateful and I'm honored. So I thank you all for this.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Conteh. We should be the ones to thank you for your service to the country.
Mr. Conteh, inumbara bake mfanalu be jaila bitu mtelenyan tete fana numbara la ye do ko menke ila bankoe.
We really am sorry that things ended as the way they should not have ended.
Akitam fanali ni kuyati kulu nata laban nyamin amanya na laban na wanyama umanke kulu kenyati.
I do hope that you get another opportunity to serve the country that we all love.
Mbenyi njiko soto la nganyi njiko soto ko fo bunda do sina yele isi do ko kela banko e nyame nyama.
It's not been easy for you, it's not been easy for the country at all.
Amang sona ya itefangoye andu amang sono ya banko fana wole nyama nyi sanji muani mfulo kono.
But you demonstrated your commitment to service the country and the people.
Bari yela wakilo ninsa yo yitandi purka do ko ke ila banko moliye anila banko fango.
Under very difficult circumstances.
Andu aketa wato metebe do ko kela aketa wati kolengoleti nuwotumo.
And most of the time, very discouraging circumstances.
Andu tembo kulle kake meni alonko jikilate kulle multi wati ube.
Well, we thank you for your service and thank you for your testimony.
Mbe numbara la ila do ku kendo kan mbe numbara la fanang ila sede yaro kan.
I think you can perhaps go back to sleep now and rest a bit more.
Baraka ngamera sila yeta yela yesino demanding yedaha.
Waking up
Thank you.
7 o'clock to go through 3 hours of testimony is not easy.
Kawuli talawro wala kanadu montoro wati saba sede andiro kono amanke kusono yarentide.
Thank you again very much.
Thank you.
Bare kotake inumbara kende ke kotake.
Councillor, are we ready with some witnesses for the afternoon? If we are, we'll take a break and come back at 3 o'clock.
Mr. Chair, yes, we are.
Beg your pardon?
We are. We have witnesses who are waiting for the afternoon session.
Good. Thank you. We will take a break and come back at 3 p.m. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.